Yo, yo, good day, everyone. Happy, happy day off for me. So that way I could actually stream during the day. I know, exciting stuff for me. Maybe less so for you, but we'll all try and have some fun today. Got a decent amount of news going. Do you know there's an election happening? But first, we're just gonna be talking about Silicon Valley in general, you know? Um, just want to talk about the real people in Silicon Valley. Maybe we will watch an all-in podcast and see just how removed from reality um, the people that represent my home are. That'd be maybe that'd be interesting. I wonder what their opinions are on things like housing. First up, though, welcome on in. I know there's probably nobody viewing right now. That's okay. Trying to get everything set up because I'm definitely not used to this. So give me one moment. All right. So a few things coming out recently regarding the election and Silicon Valley. It's from Daily Beast. Why tech bros are turning to Trump? I don't know. Can only imagine why business tech bros would be turning to somebody who wants to have less regulation for business and make it so that way government can't have the proper oversight. But let's read. During an interview on the latest episode of the Daily Beast podcast, Jessica Lesson offered an insider's take on several Silicon Valley's most colorful characters. Lesson's founder and CEO of the business and technology news site The Information, never heard of it, joined hosts Joanna Coles and Samantha Bee for a conversation on the state of tech and tech bros. I don't happen to work in tech, I just happen to live here. It's revenge of the nerds again, Lesson said. I say revenge of the nerds, with some fondness because nerds can be charming too, and I think they certainly have a little more swagger in the valley these days. Oh, is this the. Do we just watch the video? No, I'll just keep reading. Addressing Mark Zuckerberg's newfound love of streetwear, Lesson diplomatically described the makeover as Mark Unleashed. Ooh. Touched on the wild card Elon Musk. I've never heard of that guy. Who she pointed to as the Valley Bro most likely to wield the most influence over the 2024 presidential election. I can't imagine why. Might it have something to do with owning a social media platform? I know Zuckerberg does too, but doesn't always boost certain views, let alone his own. That I understand. I haven't been on Facebook in years, so I don't know. Uh, but power doesn't always mean popularity. Although he's admired in the industry for his business success, Lesson did note that people are a little bit tired of the shtick. Musk's full-throat endorsement of Donald Trump, which has extended to his recent appearance at a Trump rally decked out in dark mega merch, was a surprise, Lesson said, but in hindsight, it makes sense given the tension with the Biden administration. Um, Also surprising, Lesson noted, was venture capitalist Ben Horowitz reversal on his own Trump endorsement. Why do we why do you need to endorse? I don't know why people endorse that aren't like political figures, but I guess endorsing versus just saying who you support or gonna vote for or whatever has some kind of more meaningful effect. I don't care, I guess. Personally. Though Horowitz and his wife are friends with Kamala Harris, he had announced in July that he would back Trump. His business partner, Mark Andreessen, also endorsed Trump. Why does that name sound familiar too? But when Joe Biden stepped down from the race and Harris was announced as the Democratic nominee days later, the situation became awkward, Lesson said. Horowitz changed course last week and said he and his wife would personally make a significant donation to Harris. And I think that is the end of the article. That didn't really say why, other than the fact that they don't like Biden for whatever reason. Again, it's business people going with business people. I don't even know what there is to like. If you're a worker, I can tell you who's less likely to help you, who's less likely to think of you. The guy that's owned businesses for years, and the guy that like these Silicon Valley venture capitalists have direct connections with, being JD Vance, they aren't thinking about their workers. They're thinking about profit because they believe that their profit is what makes the world go around rather than the people that work to create the profit. I mean, at some point, you need to, you as a business person just kind of removed. So it's kind of funny, but I mean, we'll see what happens. I don't I can come up with probably 100 different reasons why a worker rather than a business owner could still vote for Trump, though I would love to have conversations with those people that to ask like what are your like your top three priorities if you're a single issue voter, stuff like that, because I personally could never be a single issue voter. That's just me though. You know, I would try to convince anybody who is out of it and look at a bigger picture. Let's see. So a lot of people, whoa, nearly half the Bay Area residents say they want to move away. That is wild. I wonder. Oh, wait a second. I already saw this, and this is very different. So Fox News phrases this as nearly half of people in the Bay Area considering leaving the Bay Area over housing costs. Yet, we'll save this for after, because I have another one about the exact poll that they're talking about here. Um, and I don't know, we'll watch the video and maybe do. I'm trying to find the actual poll, but I haven't found a link to the actual polling data. Um, we're gonna see. We'll start off with some fun in the TOD news. Anybody who's unfamiliar with TODs, we're talking about transit-oriented developments, a place that you can theoretically live without needing to own a car. A place that you can go grocery shopping, enjoy dinners out, work either within walking distance or take a bus or train to a nearby business to be able to live your life. That's the idea of a transit-oriented development is a development based on those key features. Whether or not your job is walking distance or a bus ride or a train away, that's what it's coming up with. So here we are reading this from the Real Deal. Ooh, real estate news. Real estate agents, as we know, love more housing. They don't. I don't know why. It's really curious. It's like they'd rather see less homes so that way sales prices go up rather than. Oh, maybe it's because if you have more homes and more affordability, there's actually going to need to be more agents to be able to put in the work. So you're actually potentially not making as much money per sale, and that is more work I don't know. It's got to be something to that effect. Or they, yeah, like or they don't like the imbalance, and having less homes gives them, they can focus on one home and, bring home, 3 or 4 months worth of a paycheck for for some of us. All right, Silicon Valley Transit Agency, that's Valley Transit Agency, plans to turn headquarters into housing. Up to 1,300 homes in North San Jose. When the Santa Clara Valley Transportation Authority moves its headquarters from North San Jose to downtown, it'll leave 200,000 square feet of office the agency wants to raise for homes. After cutting a deal for a new 17-story office tower, the VTA has decided to demolish its current hub at River Oaks campus at 331 blah, 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 for more than 1,000 homes. This week, the transit agency approved an undisclosed purchase terms for Almaden Crossing on South Almaden Boulevard, planning to move its nearly 380 square foot building in 2026. If the talks fall through for Almaden Crossing, VTS picked an office complex in North San Jose uh, on Technology Drive as a backup site. That will leave stacks of vacant offices at its current 17-acre headquarters, which the VTA says will be demolished. The agency plans to lease the ground for transit-oriented project. Oh wow, so they're gonna own it. And oh, that's now we're talking. The agency plans to lease the ground for transit-oriented development projects, but has yet to identify a developer that could lead the project. The property is large enough for 1,300 new homes, according to Jesse O'Malley Solis, director of VTA Real Estate and TODs. San Jose has not kept pace with its state mandated plan to build 62,000 homes within, 7 years. At the same time, VTA's move from one headquarters to another will do little to alleviate a troubled office market with a record high for empty offices across the region, depressing prices. In the third quarter, Silicon Valley had a vacancy of 22%, a local record, according to JLL. And oh, that's all right. I mean, oh, Mercury News. Well, that's not gonna show up because they have a solid paywall there. Well, that's good news though. I mean, no, it may not make a dent in office space, it may not make a dent in housing, but just because you're not making a dent doesn't mean it's not worth pursuing. I think this is pretty good news. Um, I do think that, especially the location, is pretty darn good. I'm wondering what kind of um, jobs are located near there. I mean, yeah, Intel right there. Jeez, is this like for real, for real? Broadcom. You have quite a few actually. This is like a hub of industrial all along this area here, Zanker Junction. And you're really close to a BART station. I mean, this place definitely needs some kind of. You have more homes here and more homes over here. You definitely need to have some kind of grocery store. I think there's a Target up here or something. I don't know. Oh no, that's further north. That's a pretty good location though. I like that, especially along the river. Get to enjoy some weekends biking or walking along the river, close to a park. Cross the river from another park. Good show. BTA doing great as always. All right, what's this next one up here? Sorry, excuse me. All right, so the local Fox channel here. wants to report on Silicon Valley has lost its moral compass. I think this is a pretty short, yeah, I wonder if they have, oh, this is also the same poll. I need to find this poll. Bay Area News Group. Is that, I wonder if we can, oh my gosh, why, it's just, no, it's probably not that large for you, but it's enormous for me. Let's see. Do we have Silicon Valley poll briefing? I really want to learn more about this poll because it's incredibly curious. Let's see. Download. Is this it? Let's see. Survey of 15 to 1800 residents. 6 counties of the what's perceived as 9 counties making up the Bay Area. Um, Companion piece to the Silicon Valley Index. No, that's not it. Hang on. I'm really curious if this is it. Sorry, folks. I am just curious on. Oh, wow. I think this could be it. Okay. Um, I'm gonna leave it off screen for a moment here. Okay, I'm gonna leave it off screen for a moment. This is this is the Silicon Valley Index. Oh my gosh, I wonder. I'm gonna pull this off screen also. I have no idea what is this not the same thing then? Maybe it is the same thing. SV poll report. Silicon Valley poll versus the Silicon Valley Index. I guess they are two separate things. Okay, let's watch some news, shall we?
609, a new poll is out. It has found most people who live and work in the Bay Area feel the big Silicon Valley companies have lost their moral compass. That study found 75% of those who were questioned feel the local tech industry has too much power, too much influence, and simply cannot be trusted. 80% claim Silicon Valley.
Wow. I So a lot of people think of like that everybody in Silicon Valley feels the same way, and I am so glad this poll is out because honestly, like now I'm gonna do we're gonna do a deep dive in this. I don't even. It might be another day, but oh, this is gonna be
Companies for driving up the
fun.
cost of housing with very little concern about people who live in the Bay Area.
I
Poll was
agree,
conducted by the Bay Area
100%.
News Group and the joint venture Silicon Valley.
Wow, that's not a good report. You know, um, I do feel like yeah, they don't care about us, and that leads again, like I said, the All In podcast. This isn't that. This isn't that. This poll is much more like it's much more how
The
I feel
Daymaker
too.
Pet
Oh,
by
cool.
Public Rec.
We're gonna do that. No ad for the other one, sure. Just don't know if I want to go full screen. I
Residents
don't
have
know.
considered leaving the Bay Area, but that is actually down from a few years ago. The Bay Area News Group and joint venture Silicon Valley poll showed 47% of people surveyed say they want to move out of the Bay Area in the next few years. The number has decreased in the last 2 years. The majority of people cited housing costs as the reason for considering moving.
Shocking. I wonder if we should build more housing. Should we build more homes? I don't know. I don't know if we should build more homes or not. I can't tell. So this is another article based on that same poll. So when we think about our votes coming up in November, like think about who's saying what and think about how they're gonna solve. Like, how are you not going to? How do you want people to come? Like, if housing is the number one issue for wanting to leave, which I'm gonna dig into, I want to make sure that that's real. Then surely something should be done about housing, right? This one's SiliconValley.com. Yeah, basically the same thing. You know, talking about people want to leave because of housing. Growing up here, Michelle Haley never imagined leaving the Bay Area. But these days, as the West Oakland property manager grapples with increases in taxes and living expenses and passes homeless encampments almost daily, she feels differently. I feel sometimes I have dreams of the moving unit truck pulling up to get me out of here, said Haley, 60, who has lived in Oakland her entire life. It's absurd that we've allowed the city to erode in this manner. A new poll by the Bay Area News Group and joint venture Silicon Valley finds Haley's dreams of relocating are shared by many, as 47% of Bay Area residents surveyed said they want to move out of the region in the next few years. That's actually a slight decline from 52% of respondents in 2023 who said they were likely to move away. The previous year was 56%. The reasons for wanting to leave are myriad. Survey respondents cited quality of life, taxes, and homelessness. I can imagine actually. Oh, sorry. Well, I want to finish that sentence. And the political environment, both at homelessness and the political environment, were both 28%. For the quality of life and taxes, I can almost. Quality of life has to do with, how much you're typically paying to get the kind of life you're getting. And taxes are going alongside that. And that's basically the newer purchased homes by primarily people probably under 50, probably 45 and under, even, have much higher property taxes than those who don't. Who those that are older, those that have owned for a longer time. That's that is California. That is Prop 13. That is uh, the political third rail of California politics, and it's never going to get tackled because everybody's scared to talk about it. It's scared to mention it, but that's how people want to move here for a job opportunity, but come here, you work for a big company, and then all of a sudden you have that on your resume. Yeah, you don't need to buy a home, you can rent, you don't need to plant roots, you don't need, and knowing that you're not planting roots, that you're just using this as a trampoline to get up to the next step in whatever place you actually want to live in, then you don't have to care as much about long-term investments in your community. And honestly, yeah, that's part of the thing that bugs me quite a bit is the fact that like Vance and Trump, they're both business-minded candidates. Business minds have much more to do with immediate and maybe midterm length goals as far as improvements. They don't have a 50-year vision. They don't need a 50-year vision in business because the markets will change so much. That's not where their mind's at. And immediately is, one, this is like, I'm not even talking about their politics, just the mindset of businesses versus the mindset of public officials, specifically people that have worked in government for long periods of time. They know the value of having a long range plan, and it's something that we shouldn't take for granted, to be honest. Like, you have a long range plan when it comes to your retirement, but if the government doesn't have a long range plan, then by the time they hit your retirement age and there's no plan for that, then what? Like, it's just, if we're going to talk about common sense, it's common sense that we should be planning for multiple generations at a time. How do we best secure people that are retired now and soon to be retired? How do we best support people that are going to be retired and are in the working force now that are, 15, 20 years out? How do we best help people that are new to the workforce that have been working either less than a year up to 5 to 10 years, and how do we promote the people that are in the education phase of their life, younger than 25? And if you can't plan for all those phases all at the same time, you're probably not going to be, your politics are going to be trash. Not even sorry, I'm just not. That's You wouldn't do that to yourself, so why would you want to have a government that is incapable or unwilling or both? In all honesty, yeah, like let's look at people who can plan for everything, not just one little aspect. Sorry, didn't mean to go straight for politics on that, but the number one factor pushing people out is the region's widespread lack of affordability with high housing costs, cited by two-thirds of those seriously contemplating leaving. The poll surveyed nearly 1,800 adults in August of 2024 in 5 Bay Area counties, with a margin error of 2.5%. If you address housing costs, you're probably going to be addressing quality of life in some manner, and at some point you're going to be able to address some of this taxes issue. And not only that, if you're addressing housing costs, you're going to have some effect on homelessness. I don't know how you're going to do anything about politics in all reality. Traffic, that's also going to have to do, quality of life and traffic are probably pretty related. Taxes can go to public transportation improvements, which could affect your quality of life. It may not reduce your taxes very much, but it will improve your quality of life, which will make your taxes feel like they're going towards more. Um, Everything else is, job prospects, not meaningful. Family matters, not very mean. I mean, obviously, I'm not saying they're not important. I'm just saying that for this survey, educational opportunities, remote work outside of the Bay Area, and then something else, whatever that is. I am likely to. Okay, that's just strongly agree and somewhat agree. I mean, at the same time, you're looking at 3 out of 10 people that are not moving in the next few years. That's, you know, almost 50% more that it are saying, that's almost 50% more people than are saying they will move out within the next few years. Which, I mean, we can look at it, our negatives, but we can also look at our positives. 3 out of 10 people surveyed saying that they are not leaving. I mean, although I will say, I wonder how many of the of the ages of the people that said that it probably sways greater to an older demographic, is my guess. But for much for as much economic prosperity as the Bay Area has generated, the financial benefits have accrued to a select few. Research said Tim Thomas, research director of Urban Displacement Project at UC Berkeley. The tech industry has created thousands of jobs here in the last decade, but the demand for new housing far outstrips supply, leading to soaring housing prices. Those who can't afford to stay end up leaving. Studies have shown major differences between those leaving the Bay, who tend to be disproportionately Hispanic and Black, and those coming in, who are often more wealthy and educated. What that's doing is creating, segregation, recreating segregation by economic means, Thomas said. Jacqueline Martinez is among the poll respondents who feel edged out by high housing costs. In 2017, Martinez immigrated from her home country of Guatemala to the United States, where she had a friend in South San Francisco willing to take her in. Eventually, she found her own place by paying $2,300 a month for a one-bedroom apartment for herself and her 2 children, 9 and 15. We live like sardines, Martinez said in Spanish through a translator. It feels impossible to buy a home or even just provide a decent space for my children. To make rent, she works 3 different part-time jobs as a cook, cosmetologist, and phlebotomist. Struggled with that one. Lately, she's been thinking about moving to Nevada, where she can afford a larger space for her children and fewer work hours. It's so tiring to leave, to have each day be so busy, and I cannot feel like I function as a mother. That's so important, like, especially for, sorry to all the non-parents out there, but having the time to feel like you can function as a good parent is so valuable. Like, the reduced work week was huge. That ricocheted into, oh man. That ricocheted into, so, oh wow. Perfect timing as the garbage goes by. Excuse me. That ricocheted into weekends, being able to spend time with their kids on the weekends. It's you need that time, and that's why a 32-hour work week is going to be talked about more and more. It's gone down as of even this year. People mentioned it, and then it's gone now, but maybe it'll be back sometime soon. That conversation's desperately needed. Tenants like Martinez were more likely to say that they want to leave the Bay Area. 53% of renters polled by the Bay Area News Group said they would be likely to move versus 37% of homeowners. Still, even some homeowners feel they could do better elsewhere. Megan Prasad, 31, mind you, again, like I said, older demographic, probably more likely to want her to stay here, and her husband left San Francisco last year and bought a condo in Hayward. At the same time, it felt like a good investment. But now, with their first child expected in November, the couple has been thinking about moving again closer to Prasad's family in Washington State or the East Coast, someplace more family friendly. We're just waiting to build equity in the home so that we can leave. See, they're just using our. I understand why. But people that are literally using us and our policies to build their wealth and then leave, they don't have to care about or to, in fact, this would be the exact demographic group, exact type of homeowner that does not want more homes built because then their housing equity goes up, so that way they can sell and profit and afford a nicer home in a different place. They don't have to have an emotional investment in the place that they live, the place that we call home. They just have a financial investment. And that's sad to me. Prasad could be considered part of the Bay Area's transient class, a term that the demographer E.C. Romem uses for those who come to high opportunity areas to jumpstart their careers, then leave at some point in their 30s when they want to start a family. It's a phenomenon that becomes more pronounced as the Bay Area becomes increasingly renter-heavy, making it difficult to find the kind of stability many people prefer as they age. Jorge Castillo could be considered a transient resident, drawn by a well-paying job in tech. Castillo moved to San Jose in 2021, paying $2,900 for one bedroom downtown. A few years in, though, he started to wonder why he was paying so much to live in a city where he never quite found a social circle. Excellent. See, this is much more reason where I found it so weird. Because all the young people, thriving engineers, are supposed to be here, but everyone's just at home with their dog. It made me feel isolated, he said. This summer, he left San Jose and moved back to Miami. Ultimately, it was my family and friends that really brought me home. Yeah, it's almost like you need a social group around you to be able to make you want to plant roots, Otherwise, it's really tough. It's social grind, work grind, like, let's improve people's lives, right? Higher income workers like Castillo are more likely to move farther away. Census data shows California's top destinations for out of state movers are Arizona and Washington, not Florida or Texas. That's cool. Wait a second. To be able to make you want to plant. But most of those who move in the Bay Area move really within it, or just slightly farther out. The most moved to county for Bay Area residents outside the core 5 counties. San Joaquin County, like Castillo, more likely to move farther away. Has always been known to me as someplace that's affordable. For out-of-state movers are Of course, the number of people who actually end up leaving is far less than the half of Bay Area residents who say they will every year. Inertia often wins out. They worry they might regret leaving, then sign another year-long lease, enroll their kids in another year of school. So that maybe next year. So that maybe next year will be the year. Haley's finding it hard to uproot herself from Oakland too. This year, even as she's had she's had leaving in the back of her mind, she made a run for Oakland City Council. It's a half-hearted campaign. She hasn't done any fundraising and doesn't expect to win. Mostly, it was for her to say she'd given her city one last shot. I've been complaining about everything, but I felt like I haven't done anything. This was my opportunity to say, well, you got in here and tried it before you go. This year, even as she's had leaving in the back of her mind, she made a run for Oakland City Council. Like, it's a half-hearted campaign. She hasn't done any fundraising and doesn't expect to win. Mostly, it was for her to say she'd given her city one last shot. I've been complaining
I
about
didn't
everything,
read
but I
Bowling
felt like
Alone,
I
but I
haven't done
read.
anything.
Wow,
This
man,
was my
the
opportunity to say,
kids, the
well,
kids.
you got in
Gosh,
here and tried it before you
I'll
go.
find that book review
Can
eventually.
understand the
I
sentiment.
didn't quite like it.
Like, yeah,
Same
friends,
author,
family,
Robert Putnam.
having
Um,
social groups.
Our Kids. It's Our
I didn't
Kids,
read Bowling Alone, but I
and
read, well, oh man, the kids. The
similar
kids?
vibes
Gosh,
maybe, but
I'll find that book review
I thought it was
eventually.
very,
I
very
didn't
important
quite
in
like
the
it.
showing people just how important, it is for kids to be able to be
Same
kids, and they
author,
need
Robert
safe places
Putnam.
to do that
Um,
because then otherwise parents
Our
won't let them
Kids.
have the
It's Our
freedom that they should
Kids.
have to be able to
And
be kids. It's a whole thing. It's
similar
a whole other
vibes, maybe,
stream, and
but
maybe one day if I get more than
I
zero
thought it was
viewers, I'll actually
very,
go through it.
very important
I
in
wonder,
showing people just how important,
wonder
it
how
is
I can get
for
that
kids
done.
to be able to be kids and they need safe places to do
It's
that
really important
because
though.
then
I wonder
otherwise
if I should
parents
even
won't let them
switch. I
have the
don't even know,
freedom that
man.
they should have to be able to be
Let's
kids.
go.
It's a
Some
whole
news
thing.
that
It's a whole
crazy enough
other
I haven't heard
stream.
anything
And
about.
maybe one day
So,
if I get more than
first,
zero
hope
viewers,
everybody
I'll
in
actually
Florida
go
is
through it.
safe
I
between
wonder,
Helene and Milton. Things have been crazy,
wonder
and
how I can get that
few
done.
people know what kind of help that
It's
Florida
really
is getting
important
from
though.
other
I wonder if
states.
I should
Most
even
people would
switch. I don't even know,
expect
man.
for nothing from California
Let's go.
because
Some news that
Newsom
crazy enough I
and
haven't heard anything about.
DeSantis have
So,
beef, and yet
first, hope everybody in
Fox
Florida
News
is
doesn't seem to care
safe
that
between Helene and
Newsom
Milton.
has
Things have been
sent
crazy, and
hundreds
few people
of
know what kind of
first
help that
responders,
Florida is
from
getting from other
firefighters to
states. Most people would
National Guard,
expect
I
for
believe it
nothing
is,
from California
to Florida
because
since then.
Newsom and
Oh my gosh, even PG&E
DeSantis have
sent over
beef, and yet
personnel and
Fox
vehicles.
News doesn't
That's
seem to care that
pretty wild,
Newsom
actually.
has sent
So let's see.
hundreds
Yeah, California, just as a quick
first
one.
responders,
California has
from
deployed
firefighters
354
to
first responders
National
to
Guard.
Florida.
I believe it is
Um,
Florida
Good
since then.
for California and good for PG&E, I
Oh my
guess.
gosh, even
But
PG&E sent over
PG&E has their own issue.
personnel and
Maybe
vehicles. That's
I
pretty
feel
wild,
one way,
actually.
and I
So
feel
let's see.
completely
Yeah,
other way.
California just
Um,
as a quick one. California has deployed
but
354 first responders to Florida.
talked about housing a lot
Good
here.
for California.
Talk about
Good for PG&E,
transportation
I
a little
guess.
bit more
But
though. Let's maybe
PG&E
we
has their
can
own issue.
watch a
Maybe
couple videos. Hopefully,
I feel
hopefully
one way, and
I'm
I
a
feel
nobody,
completely
so
other way. Um,
nobody's gonna flag it. We'll see.
but
Because we
talked
want
about housing a lot here. Talk about
we want to
transportation a
find
little bit more though.
some videos that we can use to help
Maybe we
San
can
Jose
watch a couple of videos.
um,
Hopefully, you know, hopefully
get
I'm
get
I'm
better.
I'm a
Like
nobody, so
we can be better.
nobody's gonna flag it. We'll
Oh no,
see.
what? Who made this?
Because we want
71,000 deep. Oh my gosh. Okay,
we want to
maybe
find
I'll review that
some
one day
videos that
too.
we can use to help San Jose
Trying to find one that's like really gonna be
get
quite
get better.
useful.
Like we can be better. Oh no!
I
What?
think I
Who
like
made this?
this one a
71,000
bit.
views. Oh my gosh! Okay, too.
Oh, I thank you.
Trying to find one that's like really gonna be quite useful. I
What
think
is
I
happening
like
right now?
this one a bit.
Have you ever been driving down a street and seen a speed
No, this is insane.
Oh,
Why
thank you.
why is this happening? This is absolutely insane. Folks, like and subscribe right now. Just do it.
What is happening right
Leave
now?
a comment for just for fun. Just to tell me
Rude.
how much I need better internet apparently,
No,
even
this
though I
is
thought I had really good
insane.
internet.
Why is this happening?
No, wow, this is
This is
wild.
absolutely insane, folks.
limit that
Like
just
and
doesn't make
subscribe
sense?
right now. Just do it.
Why is the speed limit
Leave a comment for
Okay.
just for fun.
Well, now I'm
Just to tell me
just irritated, aren't I?
how much
This is insane.
better internet apparently, even though I thought I had really good internet.
40 kilometers per hour here?
No, wow, man,
Should
this
it
is wild.
Maybe we can start over. You're gonna try? Nope. It's gonna be bad. I can already tell.
Well, now I'm just irritated on it.
Have you ever been driving down a street and seen a speed limit that just doesn't make sense? Why is the speed limit 40 kilometers per hour here? Should it
Let's
be?
start over. We're gonna try.
And should this street also be 40?
Oh my gosh! Please
Who
no.
decides
This is gonna be
No.
bad. I can already tell.
this stuff and how? The historical
I feel like my internet is as bad as this speed limit sign. Being 40 for a clearly residential street. What is this?
Oh my gosh!
Thankfully,
Please
we don't have
no.
this
Oh
in San
no!
Jose that I can think of that's this obviously supposed to be like
I
20.
feel like my internet is as
But
bad
I do
as
think
the
a push
speed limit
to
sign.
change all the 25s to
40
20.
for a clearly
And
residential
There should even
street.
be
What is
a
this?
good push to
Thankfully,
get around
we
school
don't have
districts
this
or get
in
around
San Jose
schools.
that I think
Just
that's
being
this
a flat 20,
obviously
almost no
supposed to
matter
be
what.
like 20.
Maybe
But I
some
do think a push to change
anywhere
all the
that
25s
has
to
larger
20,
streets,
and
proper
there should even be
bike
a
lanes,
good
and
push to
less on-street
get
parking or
around
something
school
like that, so that way there's a
districts or get
buffer,
around schools
and shrink
just being
the
a
width of
flat
the
20
lanes. That way it
almost no
can
matter
help.
what.
I'm hoping.
way of setting
Maybe
speed
some,
limits and the method still used in most
anywhere that
places in North
has
America
larger
is the
streets,
85th percentile
proper
rule.
bike
This
lanes
rule
and-
states that
and
you
less
build a road,
on-street parking or
call your
something like
lowest
that, so
paid
that way there's a
engineering
buffer,
intern, and send them out with a
shrink
radar
the
gun
width of the
and a
lanes, that way
clipboard
it
to
can
record the
help.
speeds of drivers during a time of good
Hoping.
weather and good visibility. Then you throw away the top 15% of speeds, and the highest speed left is rounded down, and that becomes your new speed limit.
Is
This
real?
approach seems reasonable until you think about it at all.
Is this
This
real?
method means that 15% of all drivers are breaking the speed limit.
Have a
So why the 85th percentile? Why not 90%
transit
or
engineers. Is this
any
real?
other number? Why not just fire the intern and
God,
make
it's
shit
been
up?
so long since I've seen this video.
But the
real?
bigger
that I
issue
forgot
with the
how
85th
crazy it
percentile is that,
Is this
like
real?
most things
Like,
wrong with American traffic engineering,
I
it's a 1960s metric
have a-
designed for use on rural roads
Sure it is.
that was then applied to
transit
everything,
engineers, is this real?
from highways to city streets
God, it's been so long since I've seen
and
this
everything
video
in
that
between.
I forgot how crazy it
To
is.
understand the problem better, it's useful to review the road versus street definitions used by strong towns. I have a whole video about this, but here's a quick refresher.
Sure it is.
Strong Towns is
This
good.
is a road, a high-speed connection between two places. It is a simplified environment with minimal driveways, side streets, or crossings, and often no access for pedestrians or cyclists.
Sure.
Using this
There's
language,
a
a
sidewalk
highway
there.
is a
You don't
type of
walk
road.
next to a 50-mile-per-hour car on
This
the
is a
sidewalk
street,
with nothing in
a
between.
complex environment with businesses, houses, and lots of people outside of
Seems
cars.
pleasurable.
This
Pleasant?
is a
Pleasant.
strode,
That seems
a
pleasant.
street road hybrid that
That
is
does
dangerous,
not seem
inefficient,
There-
and
even
there's a
still here,
sidewalk
like,
there.
you can
don't
see
wanna walk
that you
next
have
to a 50-mile-per-hour car on the sidewalk with
something on
nothing
the
in
right.
between.
I don't know what it is, but it's something
It
separated,
seems
and
pleasurable.
that's like
Pleasant?
the bare minimum you
Pleasant.
could do
That
is
seems pleasant.
separate
That does not seem pleasant.
anything
And
moving
even
as
still
fast
here,
as
you can
that
see
street
that
is
you
designed
have
for. From
something on the
everything
right?
else
I don't
that
know
is
what it
not
is.
designed to go that fast.
But it's
You know what I
something
mean?
separated, and
Like,
that's like the bare
there's
minimum.
no
you
way
could do
you're
is
letting
separate
you're intentionally
anything
like,
moving as fast
hey
as
kids,
that
let's
street
go
is designed
ride our
for.
bikes to this place. We just
From
need to go on this
everything
busy
else that is not
4-lane
designed to go
road
that
with
fast.
where cars go 40 to
You know what I
50
mean?
miles an hour.
Like,
No big deal.
there's no way you're letting
Come on,
your
pedal faster.
Expensive.
your intention.
Stroads should
Like,
never exist,
Hey
but for
kids,
now, let's
go
stick to
ride
streets
our
and
bike on
roads.
bikes to this place. We
The
just need to go
85th
on this
percentile
busy,
rule may be
4-lane
arbitrary, but
road
it,
with, where
or
cars go
something
40 to
like
50
it,
miles an hour.
is not necessarily a
No big
bad way
deal.
to set the speed limit of a
Come on,
road.
pedal faster.
One of the elements of safety on a rural road is that all drivers should be driving at around the same speed. When speeds are consistent, most
Oh my
drivers
gosh,
are
and
traveling
actually,
together.
This even has
I
a speed hump.
drive a rural road on average more than once a month, for sure. And yeah, once you get it into just
Yeah.
2-lane
Oh my
road
gosh,
with
and actually,
just
I
you know
drive
stripes in between
a rural road.
the lanes going one direction each.
on
one
average more than
lane
once a
each
month,
direction.
for sure.
Once you get out there, like
And
there's nowhere to go.
Yeah, once you get
Really,
it
there's
into just
very few
two-lane road
people
with
who would
just
try to make that pass, but like
stripes in between, the
by
lanes
and large,
going,
yeah,
one
you know,
direction in
you're
each,
going as fast as the person
one
in front,
lane each direction.
and that's, you know,
Once you get out there, like
I think we have a
there's
problem
nowhere to
with
go.
trying to rush
Really, there's
in the car
very
because
few
people hate
people
driving
who
so
would try
much.
to
In
make
reality,
that
they just
pass,
want to
but
get
like
to where they're going. It's
by and
not
large, yeah,
pleasant for them,
you're going as fast as the
you know?
person in front, and that's
there is
I
minimal
think we have a problem
overtaking
with
and
trying
therefore
to
minimal
rush
opportunities for
in the
conflict.
car because people hate
This is
driving
based
so
on
much.
research
In
of
reality,
U.S.
they
rural
just wanna
roads
get
in the
to where they're going.
1960s.
It's not for them.
The problem comes when this design
know?
approach for a rural road is applied to a street.
Guys, see, I
Unlike
don't
a
even,
road, a
as
street
much as
is
I
not
like
a
parklets as a
thoroughfare.
concept,
It is a destination, a place for productive
eating
city
right next
life.
to cars just
A street will be lined with houses
seems
or
less pleasant.
businesses. It will also have pedestrians and cyclists who aren't being considered at all in that 85th percentile.
God, see, I don't even.
A
as
good
much
street
as I
is
like
complex,
parklets
and that
concept,
complexity is what makes for a pleasant, attractive, and
eating right
productive
next to
street.
cars just
And a good street is not
seems less
compatible
pleasant.
with high-speed traffic,
I
so
think that was
speeds
really well put too. Is a good street is complex, and the reason you want a complex street is because you have to pay more attention. If you're cautious because it's complex as a driver,
I think that was really well put
you're
too. Is
taking
a good street
hopefully
is complex.
extra
And the
precaution,
reason you want
and
a
that
complex
makes you
street
drive slower,
is
be more
because
attentive,
you have to pay more
maybe
attention.
even avoid
You're
it altogether.
cautious because it's
And on
complex as a driver.
places that you want people to be able
You're
to
taking hopefully
enjoy
extra
a
precaution,
walk about
and that makes you
town,
drive slower, be more attentive,
such as the one you're seeing here
maybe
that,
even avoid
you
it
know,
altogether.
barely exists in America.
And on places that you
That's
want people
nice.
to be able to
I mean, if you're thinking,
enjoy
I mean,
a
I'm you know,
walkabout
we're gonna use the San Jose example.
town,
You're looking at downtown Willow
such
Glen.
as
You
the
don't
one
even
you're
have
seeing here that
the train,
barely
the
exists
tram tracks
in
on there,
America.
but essentially very similar,
That's
or a
nice.
street on the ground floor at least.
I mean,
And
if you're thinking, I mean,
you're never
we're gonna
gonna
use the
see
San
as
Jose
few
example.
as
You're
one
looking at
car
downtown Willow Glen. You
there
don't even have
when it's a time
the
that
train,
this many people are
the
out.
tram
You're
tracks
just
on
never
there,
gonna
but
see it.
essentially very
And
similar, or a street on
there's
the
an
ground
argument
floor
that
at least,
you want more
and
people and you want to make it more complex.
you're
I mean,
never gonna
I'm
see as few as one car there
really
when it's
hoping
a
that
time
we
that
can
should
get
be
this
low.
many
closer to
people are
something
out.
like that.
You're just
Many
never gonna
cities in
see
the
it.
US and Canada design
Yeah,
dangerous
it
high-speed
looks like
streets,
this.
or rather
There's an
stroads,
argument that
right
you
through their
want more
city
you
centers.
want to make it more
And then they
complex.
wonder
I mean,
why
I'm
pedestrian fatalities are so high and why all the downtown
really
shops went out
hoping
of
that
business.
we can get closer to something
Yeah,
like
In
that.
fact, the
unpleasant.
very best streets are those with almost no
Yeah,
motor
it
vehicles
looks-
at
it
all.
looks like this.
In short, moving motor vehicles is not the primary purpose of a street. So setting speed limits to whatever drivers feel like driving is a terrible way to determine
it's
vehicle speeds on a street. Speed is the single biggest factor in the fatality of car crashes. Well, it's actually momentum, which is velocity times mass, but that's not important right now. The higher the speed, the more likely it is that a crash will be fatal. This is especially true for cyclists and pedestrians. At higher
Very
speeds,
true.
it also becomes more difficult for a driver
It's
to
like
react in
30
time
miles
and
per
for a
hour,
vehicle
where
to
it
stop in
gives
time
a
to avoid a
pedestrian
collision.
like 20% chance of
And
surviving,
as modern
or
vehicles
25%
become more
chance of
powerful
surviving
and
or
safer for
something.
their occupants, drivers feel even
insane.
more confident driving at higher speeds,
true.
which is making the issue of speeding
It's
even
like
worse.
30 miles per hour. Where it
So the
gives
best thing to
a
do to reduce
pedestrian
road
like
fatalities
20%
is to
chance
lower
of
the
surviving
speed
or
that vehicles are
25%
driving.
chance of surviving or
This is why you're seeing cities all over the
It's
world
insane.
reducing their speed limits. And to be clear, this is a good thing for multiple reasons. In fact, even traffic congestion actually improves when speed limits are lowered, but I'll talk about that in a future video. Unfortunately, most cities do this completely wrong by just putting up a new sign. Now, to be fair, just changing the sign does have a small effect on average speeds, and it's better than nothing. But it's
gotta be
not a
40
permanent solution,
kilometers.
and here's why this is a problem. Driving is a subconscious activity. As much as we'd like drivers to pay attention all the time, we would get exhausted
Look at that
if we
truck
had to
just
always
riding that
consciously
line
focus on driving.
from
Humans
the,
just
gotta be 40
aren't
that
built for
divides
that.
cars from
Well,
bike
some
lanes.
humans are, but we call them professional race car drivers. Have you ever been driving somewhere on the weekend and suddenly found yourself driving to work without realizing
truck
it?
just
Yeah,
riding that
that's
line
why.
from the
And this is the fundamental
divides
problem with
cars
speed
from
limits.
bike lanes.
Most people don't consciously think about what speed they're going.
Yeah,
They're
don't
not
let you don't think
obsessively
about it.
checking their speedometer or reading every speed limit sign they pass. The vast majority of drivers will drive at whatever speed feels comfortable for the road they're driving on. This is what's known as the design speed
Yeah,
of
no
the
lie,
road.
you don't think about it.
And if that design speed doesn't match the posted speed limit, then we have a problem. Here is an example of a street, actually more of a strode, that has a very high design speed. The street is wide and straight, there are lots of wide lanes for motor vehicle traffic. Everything about this street is telling drivers to drive quickly. In fact, the only thing
Inferring,
that's slowing down
maybe,
drivers here at all
at
is this
least,
traffic
at the
light,
very
which is
least.
often red. But the
Right.
speed limit here is 40 kilometers per hour. Unsurprisingly, almost nobody is driving at that speed, so they put up this flashing sign to
Inferring,
snap people out of their
maybe,
subconscious
at
driving
least,
and remind
at
them
the very
to
least.
slow down. Now,
Right.
this is a complicated
Hmm.
street. The street is lined with houses, there's a school here too, and there are pedestrians and cyclists. The speed limit should be low here, probably 30 kilometers per hour or lower, but putting up a sign like this is not the right way to do it, because it doesn't match the design speed of the street.
Yeah.
There's an
a
even more
lot of
ridiculous
streets that are in San Jose that are designed like that, and then to boot, they're also those are the streets, those are the properties on
Yeah.
those streets that are
There's
supposed
a
to
lot
have
of
the
streets that are in
higher
San Jose that
or a
are
density, the
designed
taller
like that, and
buildings and
then
whatnot, and
to boot, they're
the
also
I'm sorry, but like
those are the
the only place that you could
streets, those are the properties
build
on those streets that
high
are
density,
supposed
tall,
to have the
mixed use
higher
buildings maybe
density, the
are
taller
on
buildings and
the
whatnot,
busiest,
and
most
I'm sorry, but
congested,
like
highest speed,
the only
and
place
most
that you
polluted
could
roadways
build
that the city
high
has
density,
for
tall,
is kind of a
mixed
problem.
use buildings maybe
Like,
are on the
who
busiest,
wants to just be around
most congested,
just
highest speed
cars and traffic
and
and
most
smog and
polluted
stuff like that? Like,
roadways
it
that the city has to offer is kind
there's
of a
going to
problem.
be a better way.
Like,
And there is,
I don't-
Kevin.
a situation
who
that's
wants
common in
to
rural
just
areas
be
of the
around
US and Canada.
just
Here we are
cars
coming
and
into a
traffic
town
and
along a
smog and
90
stuff like
kilometer
that,
per
like,
hour
you
road.
we,
It's unsafe to drive this
There's
fast
gotta
through
be
the
a
town,
better
so
way.
now
I
the
know what a
speed limit is
kilometer
70.
is.
there is,
And
Kevin.
now it's 50. But there's literally nothing done to change the geometry of the road. In fact, a bit farther along, the road
this
is
actually
even
does
wider
happen.
to accommodate street parking. So
America.
any
I
driver
When-
who's not
when I
constantly looking at their
drive on roads like
speedometer
that.
will continue driving too fast.
100%.
So once again, many towns put up flashing signs like this one to remind drivers to slow
This
down.
actually does
Like me in
happen.
this case, because I missed the sign.
When I
Literally
drive on
every
roads
town
that,
like this in the US and Canada
100%.
have residents who complain about drivers speeding through their town. And the reason for this is that North American traffic engineers are stubbornly stuck in the world of 1960s traffic planning. This is a topic that is explored in detail in the new book, Confessions of a Recovering Engineer, by Strongtown's founder, Chuck Marohn. In one chapter, the book states, "To be safe, the street must communicate the real level of risk to the driver. In other words, the driver must feel discomfort driving in a manner that is unsafe." The truth is that many drivers will not slow down because of signs or speed limits. They'll slow down either because they don't feel safe or because they're afraid of damaging their car. What this means, though, is that we can take this subconscious driving
Nobody likes
reality
damaging
and
their
use
car.
it to our advantage by designing the street or road for the speed that we want, which is exactly
Which
what
means we
traffic
need to
engineers
design
do
streets
in
that
civilized
look like they
countries
could
like
damage
Sweden
your
or the
car.
Netherlands.
nobody likes damaging.
Here's
their
what it
car.
looks like to
Stay
enter
in
a
your
small
lane,
town in the
Cotton.
Netherlands. The road is visually narrowed by the dotted lines, and trees are
Which means
planted
we
closer
need
to the
design
road.
streets that
Then
look
there
like
is a
they
speed
could
bump,
damage your
and the road
car.
becomes so
Yeah,
narrow that only one
pinch.
car can pass at a time.
Stay in your lane, Cotton.
Road design like
That's
this
what you need
immediately
around
triggers a
schools right
subconscious
there.
response. Everything
That
about this road
pinch.
design suggests low speeds, and you don't need a flashing sign to
Oh,
tell
man,
drivers
it's
to
such
slow
bad
down.
quality. So sorry.
This approach is used
That's
all
what
over
you
the
need
Netherlands.
around schools right there.
Here is a country road with an
That
80
pinch.
kilometer per hour speed limit. Coming up on the left are a few driveways to some
Oh, man,
farmhouses
it's such
that
bad
might be a
quality.
potential
So
source of
sorry.
conflict. But instead of arbitrarily posting a lower speed limit, there are trees that have been planted close to the road. This immediately signals to the driver that they need to pay attention
Yeah,
at
even
this
these
location.
like kissing trees up above.
One of
like,
the great
that
things
tunnel
about driving in
vision
the Netherlands is that it's rarely necessary to look at the
is
speed
really
limit.
like
The road design takes
quite
care of that
different.
for you. Here's a 50 kilometer per hour
Yeah,
road.
even these like kissing trees up above.
And on
like,
this street,
that
it feels
tunnel
right to
vision
drive slower.
is really
Here we
brick
are
help
approaching a
too.
pedestrian
Quite
crossing,
different.
and the street design suggests we should slow down and pay attention. And this is very clearly a slow residential street where it feels right to drive 30 kilometers per hour.
Too.
The old approach was to design the street, check the 85th percentile speed, and set the speed limit accordingly. But the modern, safer approach is to choose the speed limit that's appropriate for the context of the street, and if drivers are consistently going faster than that, then the street design should change until drivers are going the desired speed. It's not the 1960s anymore. We have decades of data that can tell us with fairly good precision what speed a typical person will drive on a given road or street. If you make it wide, simple, and straight, most people will drive quickly.
Don't want to abuse.
If you make it
I
narrow,
think that
complex, and
he has,
twisty, most people will
if you
drive
watch something
slowly.
like this with a council member, I'm almost confident
This isn't
that they
rocket
wouldn't
science,
reach. They
and
just
several
don't
cities have
know-
already adopted these practices.
I would believe
think
that
that
they
is-
don't know.
But the
how to
outdated
tell
methods
their
are still being
residents.
followed by
watch
the
something like
majority
this
of
with
traffic
council.
That's
engineers
something
in
that's
the
got to
U.S.
change. They wait
as
for
in
their
Canada.
residents. They just know
We can't
to,
keep doing this. It's
would
time to
believe that
stop
to
They don't
say
know how to
something to
tell
them
their
about doing it.
blindly
Because
following
otherwise,
the guidelines of
maybe
the
it's not
previous
that.
century
Something's gotta
and design the
change.
streets
They
to
wait
match
for
the
their residents
right
to,
speed limit and not
let's,
the other way
let's
around.
find
something
another-
to them about doing it,
another
because
one, but-
otherwise maybe it's not a problem.
I'd like to thank my supporters on Patreon who pay me to make the
Oh,
speed limit
yeah.
at Science
Should we have a
Flash.
little-
I'll find
If you'd
another-
like
Should we have a little
Another
break
one,
for just like regular
what is-
politics? I don't know.
Oh yeah,
It's not really that long.
we have a little. Should we have a little
Yeah,
break
even
for
CNBC
just like regular
did something. Look at them.
politics? I don't
Um,
know. It's not really
We
that
have
long.
we have more stuff.
The Secret Service and the
gotta watch.
FBI are investigating the arrest at a security
Getting back
check-
to our regular politics. See here. This is something I didn't even hear at all this weekend. I mean, I did because I knew to look it up. But the biggest news that came out of the Trump rally this weekend was the fact that apparently buses were like leaving people there that went to the rally stranded. Pretty garbage. I don't even know. I don't even know what goes into that. I'm just feel for people that Churchill's in the middle of nowhere, right? Like I don't even know where the stage was or anything. I'm just I don't know. But on social media, I didn't hear anything about this.
point near a Trump rally in California over the weekend. The suspect was taken into custody without incident and was later
Yeah.
released on a $5,000 bail. CBS News congressional
Or-
correspondent
I
Scott
mean,
McFarland
let's
has the very
see,
latest
this
on the
is- it says the
investigation.
police
Joining me now
arrest,
from the
maybe
White
not.
House. So Scott, break down what happened.
Where was this?
If federal
I'm just
investigators
curious.
say former President Trump was not in danger at this event Saturday, and
Oh, yeah.
a federal law enforcement source speaking with CBS News says this was not any indication of an attempted assassination. What police do know is that Vem Miller, a 49-year-old from Las Vegas, is accused of having two unregistered loaded firearms in an SUV at a security checkpoint at that Trump event in Coachella on Saturday. They say the car he was in was kind of disheveled, that it had a fake license plate, that there were fake IDs and boxes of ammo inside, and that somehow Miller got past the first security perimeter claiming he was a journalist, but didn't get past the second one. And Miller, for his part, says he is a Trump supporter. He was invited to the rally. He's been trying to help with the re-election campaign. He calls these accusations lies. He says police are mistaken. He's charged with 2 misdemeanors, Vlad. He's been released. He'll have a future court date. But the feds are emphasizing this was not any indication of an attempted assassination, even though the local sheriff...
Maybe this is why it's not on the news.
The news because
I don't even.
I don't even.
I don't know what to think
I
about
don't even
this
know what to
anymore.
think
Holy
about this
crap,
anymore.
man.
Holy crap, man.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know, folks.
I'm sorry. I don't know, folks.
I don't know what to tell you.
I don't know what to tell
Where
you.
do we go from here?
Where
There's
do we
so
go
much
from
different
here? There's
stuff
so
to
much
like
different stuff to like
to go over.
go over. Oh,
I take it back.
I take it back.
I do know where
I
we
do
can
know
go. So
where we can go. So
I do know San Jose has
San Jose has
wonderful plans.
wonderful
Apparently
plans
for almost a year now.
Apparently for almost a
To
year
be
now.
where AI
To be where AI
booms.
booms.
Per San Jose Spotlight, San Francisco is the self-proclaimed artificial intelligence capital of the world, but San Jose is looking to clinch that title in the coming years. In an effort to attract the next generation of AI startups to the South Bay, San Jose Mayor Matt Mahan wants San Jose to explore creating incentives for AI companies to move or expand in the city. He also wants to research opportunities to make city services more efficient and accessible through AI. The city's Rules and Open Government Committee approved the ideas proposed in a memo by Mahan, Vice Mayor Rosemary Kamei, and Councilmember David Cohen on Wednesday. Plans still need to go to the full San Jose City Council for final approval. San Jose is what made America looks like in the 21st century, Mahan told the San Jose Spotlight. We have the largest and most diverse pool of technical talent in the country. That's really our edge. However, remember, you only have that pool of people based on they want housing to be improved, quality of life to be improved. I mean, so we know that's going to be a struggle to keep some of those people, and that institutional knowledge is going to be useful in some point down the line. And if these people are, whether it's being priced out or whether it's being made to feel unwelcome, for any number of reasons, but specifically about quality of life, or cost of living and whatnot. It's going to be hard to keep those people that are the diverse pool of technical talent. City officials have multiple ideas to lure AI companies at San Jose, including discounted utility rates, potential tax and in the fee rebates, and subsidizing or totally covering leases or rents for office space. What is this? Communism? Mahan is also searching for ways to use AI for better timed traffic lights and quicker permitting process for developments across the city. I basically just want the person that the video that we just watched from Not Just Bikes puts out another video about there are already smarter traffic lights in the world. Just copy what's already existing when it comes to a quicker permitting process for developments. A lot of that comes with planning and zoning. Just make that easier. You don't need AI to do these things. These things already exist. This is just tech broism 101. Mahan argued that San Jose is a prime location for AI companies to move because of its proximity to the world-renowned hardware, software, and semiconductor companies. Downtown is also home to San Jose State University, which has a growing AI department and recently launched a master's degree in AI. Assistant City Manager Lee Wilcox said the city will explore the legitimacy of the proposed incentives and come back with a budget proposal to fund further exploration early next year. Wilcox said some of that research is already underway. The Economic Development Department has been talking to AI executives to learn what companies need from a city to grow. We'll pause there, because a lot of when you hear new developments being proposed and they have people that, like, residents getting to give input on them, they mention two things. However, they're outs, right? At least the most legitimate concerns. Water use, energy use. Take it away, Eric Schmidt.
We have another question here. Good afternoon. My name is Jamie Kern. I work on energy policy at the delegation of the European Union to the United States. Appreciate the conversation, but I moved throughout the day noticing that for the summit on AI and energy, it's been unidirectional in talking about how much energy will we need and can we build for AI. But what about the other direction? Can you talk about how AI can be used to reduce the existing and future demand on energy, not just in the data centers, but across the power grid and devices we use, in the way in which buildings and systems and individuals consume electricity, in a way that it could potentially offset its own needs? I haven't heard that discussion other than the brief mention you had about build a better battery.
And remember, AI is only as good as its inputs.
Now remember,
It's human
AI is only
inputs
as good as its inputs.
make AI. Now, in
It's human
theory,
inputs
AI can learn
make AI.
from
Now, in theory,
other
AI can
AI,
learn from
but
other
even those are
AI,
still only as good as other human inputs.
but even those are still
So,
only as
in
good
other
as
words,
other
every
human
answer
inputs.
is already given
So,
from
in
other
other words,
humans.
every
Perhaps it'd
answer
be good for like
is be
researching
given from
purposes,
other humans.
but
Perhaps it'd be good for like
there's a
researching
goal
purposes,
to have
but
in San Jose and probably
there's a
California to
goal
have a
to
net
have in San
neutral
Jose and probably
energy
California
consumption.
to have a net
Um,
neutral
so,
energy
and I think
consumption.
that's in like 6 years
Um,
or 10 years maybe
so,
by now.
and I think that's in like 6 years or 10 years
So
maybe by now.
he's at the question is about
So
how much
he's at
energy
the
AI
question is
is
about
using because AI
how
is
much
using
energy AI
a
is using
lot of
because
energy
AI is
compared to,
using
let's see if I
a
can
lot
find something real
of
quick.
energy
It's
compared
using
to
much more
let's
energy.
see if I
Yeah,
can find something real quick on it's using much more energy
consumption
energy
versus
consumption versus
let me see.
let me see.
Imagine.
Imagine.
So for for the Google search that I just
So for the Google
performed,
search that I just
ChatGPT
performed,
would need nearly 10 times as much energy. And if we're
ChatGPT
relying on
would
AI
need nearly 10 times as much energy. And if
to
we're
provide us with the
relying on
answers instead of
AI
just using humans to call
to provide us with
humans
the answers instead of
to
just
do research,
using humans to call
um,
humans to do
it's just
research,
going to use
um,
more and more energy right now. That's how it stands right
it's
now.
just going to use
And his question,
more and more
the
energy
question being
right
posed
now.
is
That's
how
how it
is,
stands right now.
what about the
And his
energy
question, the question being posed is how is,
using less
what
energy
about the energy
without using, just build a better
using
battery?
less
How
energy
is AI going to
without
get us
using,
to
just
a
build a
net
better
neutral so
battery?
that way it's
How is
when
AI going to get us
before when
to
we just have
a net
current
neutral so that way
technology?
it's
Because
when
as this article
before when we
from
just have
NPR says,
current
and
technology?
as
Because
AI
as
gets
this
more
article
sophisticated, it
from
needs
NPR
more
says,
energy.
and
In the
as
U.S., a lot of
AI
that
gets
energy
more
comes from
sophisticated,
burning
it
fossil
needs
fuels,
more
and if
energy.
so, it's basically
In the
saying if you
U.S., a
care
lot of
about
that energy comes from burning
either
fossil
pollution
fuels.
or climate
It's
change,
basically saying if you
you
care
have to
about
be skeptical on
either
AI
pollution or climate
energy
change,
consumption.
you have to be skeptical on AI
And then
energy
Eric
So
Schmidt
there's an
consumption.
old
answers.
saying. I was at a dinner with Bill Gates and Andy Grove
And it
once,
Totally normal
and they
Eric
had a
human
huge
Schmidt
being.
fight.
answers.
This is years ago.
Totally
And
normal. Like
Totally normal
the
human
saying
being.
one of the
was,
guys.
Grove giveth, Gates taketh
Totally
away.
normal. Like
So
one
the
of the
harder
guys.
guys get better, and they do a really good job, and the softer people just need more. And I have every reason to believe that in this phase of AI, the same is true. It won't be Grove and Gates, it'll be some other people. But the fact of the matter is, the demand is infinite, even assuming everything that you're implying in your question. So let's go through that.
I'm
First,
sorry,
we've
he
already
said,
discussed better materials for battery.
let's hear that again.
So let's go through that.
I'm sorry, he said.
Even assuming everything
Let's hear
that
that
you're
again.
implying in your question. So let's go through that. First, we've already discussed better materials for,
Wait, did I miss it?
and really good
Wait,
job,
I think I
and the
did I
softer
miss it?
people just need more. And I have every reason to believe that in this phase of AI, the same is true. It won't be Grove and Gates, it'll be some other people. But the fact of the matter is, the demand is infinite, even assuming everything that you're implying in your question. So let's go
Infinite.
through that. First,
Infinite.
The consumption, the energy consumption demand is infinite.
The consumption.
He
The
asked a
energy
question
consumption demand
about
is infinite.
how would he get to tapering
He
off,
asked the question
leveling
about
off the energy
how would he get
consumption,
to
and this guy says actually
tapering off, leveling
the
off
energy
the energy
it
consumption,
needs is
and this
infinite.
guy says actually
Meanwhile, people
the energy
in San Jose
it needs is
today are
infinite.
concerned about
Meanwhile, people
energy consumption,
in San
and we
Jose
want to
today are
reduce
concerned about
the energy costs
consumption, and
for
we
these
want to
companies to come here.
reduce the energy
When it comes
costs
to
for these
planned
companies to come here.
brownouts or blackouts or whatnot,
When it comes to
who's going to be
planned
more likely
brownouts or
if
blackouts or
the
whatnot,
if San Jose is reliant on
who's gonna be
AI to
more
function
likely
its streetlights or
the
to
if San Jose is reliant on
complete basic
AI
city
to function
services?
its
Who's
streetlights
more
or
likely to have
to
their power cut?
complete
Is
basic
it
city services,
those AI
who's more
companies,
likely
or
to
is it
have
going to be
their power cut? Is it
people? Are we
those
going to
AI
require them to
companies, or
have,
is it gonna be
the even bigger
people?
generators
Are we gonna
for
require
when
them
that
to have,
happens? If they are going to cut theirs
the
first because they have
even bigger
generators instead of people?
generators?
Or are we
For
going
when
to
that
say that
happens,
they
if
have
they
have the
are
same
gonna cut theirs
generators,
first because they have generators instead
that
of
they have to
people?
monitor more
Or are we gonna say
frequently,
that they have to
refuel
have the
more
same
frequently,
generators,
and so forth?
that they
I
have to
mean,
monitor more frequently, refuel more
I do
frequently,
feel like
and so forth?
San Jose's attempt to lure in AI
I do feel like
is,
San Jose's attempt to lure in AI
and that doesn't even talk about energy. Yeah,
is
wild. The attempt to lure in AI is primarily,
doesn't even talk about
because
energy. Yeah, wild.
there's a
The
tech
attempt to
incentive,
lure in AI is
and you
primarily
kind of have to wonder
because there's
if
a
somebody that
tech
has a
incentive,
tech background
and you kind of have
just
to
believes
wonder
in tech as
if
being able to
somebody
fix
that has a
everything.
tech background
If
just
there's
believes in
a
tech
bias, if there's a blind
as
spot,
being
if
able to
there,
fix everything.
if there's something,
If
you know,
there's a bias, if
it
there's a
doesn't
blind
have to be that
spot, if there, if
somebody
there's
has to
something,
pay any official when they
it
already
doesn't
have the
have to be
mindset
that
of, I mean, the
somebody has to
mayor
pay
of San
any
Jose's background
official
is in tech.
when they already have the mindset of,
He
I mean, his
was in
the mayor's
he
mayor of San Jose's
worked on
background is in tech.
he worked with Sean Parker on one of the first Facebook
He
apps.
was
Was
in the
close
he
to Zuckerberg
worked on
at the beginning of
he
Facebook.
worked with
He
Sean
was at
Parker on one
Harvard
of the
at the
first
same
Facebook
time.
apps.
I can't
Was
remember if he was in the same
close to
dorm or just went
Zuckerberg
there to
at the
work or
beginning of
whatever.
Facebook. He was at Harvard at
But
the same time. I can't remember if he was in the
these
same
are all
dorm or
things
just
that
went there to work or whatever.
show
But
that he believes
these
in
are all
tech
things
as
that
being the answer.
show
And
that
when we need to,
he believes in tech as being the answer.
we haven't even made sure that
And
all the energy
when
that we
we
have
need to,
today can be brought to
we
everybody
haven't even
during
made sure that
heat waves
all
and
the
stuff like
energy
that,
we have today can be brought
to
to
bring on
everybody
and
during
to welcome,
heat waves,
to promote
stuff like that.
AI businesses, especially ones that
To bring on and
there's no
to
guarantee that
welcome,
they have like
to
a lot
promote
of employees at these
AI
businesses, at the
businesses, especially
at
ones
AI
that
companies. They
there's no
they're just
guarantee that they have like a
one
lot
big
of
tower with
employees at
a
these
bunch of
businesses, at the at AI companies. They
processors
they're
in
just
them.
one
There's
big
no
tower
guarantee
with
that there's a lot of
a bunch
employees
of
that are in San Jose.
processors in them.
And that's really what brings
There's no
in
guarantee that there's a lot of employees
that boosts the
that are in San
business
Jose.
tax revenue,
And that's
which
really
is
what
what
brings
we
in
need in San Jose, as he
that boosts
knows,
the
to get
business
to a better
tax
balance of
revenue,
of
which is
residents
what we
to
need in San
employees
Jose, as he
to
knows,
workers.
to get to a better balance of
I
residents
just think that
to
it's haphazard.
employees
I don't think it's
to
well thought
workers.
through, and I don't think it's gonna inherently be
I
beneficial.
just think that it's haphazard.
I feel like
I don't think it's
it's
well
a
thought through,
bigger
and
gamble
I don't think it's inherently be
than something
beneficial.
like trying to bring in more
I feel like
small
it's
and
a
local
bigger
businesses
gamble
to San Jose, to
than
have
something
more
like trying to bring in
walkable
more small and local
neighborhoods,
businesses
more neighborhoods that
to San
create
Jose,
a
to
walking or
have
bike
more
friendly area that end up
walkable
using less energy, end up
neighborhoods,
using
more neighborhoods that
you know,
create a walking or bike
more public
friendly area that
transit. It
end up
can
using less
reduce
energy,
traffic in
end up
some
using
way. There are definitely better ways that we can get
more public transit.
our
It
goals. This
can
is,
reduce traffic in some way. There
if
are
I'm
definitely better
extremely
ways that we can get
skeptical, I'm just
meet our
saying that
goals.
this is something to show. Oh, we grew something
If I'm extremely
in San Jose that
skeptical,
people
I'm
weren't
just saying
thinking of
that this
before,
is
and
something
he's
to
gonna.
show. Oh, we
I mean,
grew
I have
something
no reason to believe that he's not
in
going
San
to
Jose
try
that
and
people weren't
bounce
thinking of
up
before,
in the
and
world of
he's gonna.
politics.
I mean,
And
I have no reason to believe that he's not going to try
it may be
bounce
overly
up
critical,
in
but
the
it
world
also
of
may be spot on.
politics.
And
And
who did, I don't understand how
maybe
this would
overly critical,
inherently
but it also
benefit
be spot on.
the people of San Jose.
And who did
Especially if we're
I don't
reducing
understand how this
taxes
would
and
inherently
fees
benefit
to come to the
people of
city
San
in
Jose.
order to get them here.
Especially if we're
Are
reducing
they,
taxes
is
and
the
fees
gamble that
to come to
once
the
they're
city
here
in order
they
to
have
get
trouble
them here?
leaving where they're work or where
Are
their
they, is
their
the
processors and
gamble
whatnot,
that
and then
once
are
they're
we
here
is it
they
real
have
long goal,
trouble
or are we
leaving where their
are we allowing
their
I don't know why they wouldn't
processors are and whatnot, and
try
then
to
are
extend
we real
whatever
long
fees they
goal, or are
have
we
because they're reliant then
are
all
we
of a sudden
allowing
on them.
I don't know why they wouldn't try to extend
Just
whatever
doesn't seem like
fees they have because they're
the
reliant
best
then all of a
gamble,
sudden on them.
in my opinion, as the
Just doesn't seem like
recycler. Some kind of truck is
the best
outside. I don't know if you
gamble,
could hear it.
in my opinion, as the
I don't know.
recycler, some kind of truck
I
is
think
outside.
people
I don't
are
know if
betting
you
a
hear
lot
it.
on AI, and I don't know if that's
I don't know.
what's
I
best.
think people are
I've
betting a lot
never
on
heard of this
AI,
channel, but
and I don't know
We've
if
got
that's
passion, we've got determination. Like, and if we set our sights on something, you better
nobody
believe it's
here
happening.
says that.
I've never
I'm
heard
just
of
gonna
We
this
always
go
felt like
for
our
it.
content was all about entertainment and being fun, but there was also this, sort of professional
Nobody
business
here
side.
said
One of the things
Cool.
I'm just
The
gonna
lines
go
between
for it.
city and suburb are blurring, and it's
Ooh,
changing the way we
Mike
live,
sounds like mine,
work, and
probably.
interact. From population growth to economic shifts, we'll break down the
Cool.
key drivers behind suburban urbanization. Then we'll
Ooh,
explore how these
Mike sounds
changes
like
are
mine,
reshaping
probably.
everything from housing demands to transportation systems. In our once quiet suburban communities, picture a typical 1950s suburban neighborhood with neat rows of single-family homes, wide lawns, and car-sectioned streets. Now, fast forward to today, this same area has transformed, featuring denser housing, diverse architectural styles, and multi-use spaces. This evolution represents suburban urbanization, a process distinct from traditional urban growth. Global urbanization trends underscore the significance of this shift. Currently, over half of the world's population resides in urban areas. Projections indicate this shift will rise to 68% by 2050. As we explore the causes and effects of suburban urbanization, we'll uncover how these forces are reshaping our communities and challenging our perception of suburban life. While global urbanization trends paint a
You know
clear
what? I thought that this was going to be a little bit different, to be completely honest. So I'm wondering,
You know
is
what?
there anything else I can find?
I thought that this was gonna be a little bit different, to be completely honest. So I'm wondering, is there anything else I can find?
Anything else we can find to talk about? Or to hear, I think that's pretty much it for how we can talk about San Jose as a whole. But we're gonna scoop up some info here. Here we have something from Politico. And we're talking about housing. And we're talking about how apparently J.D. Vance and Kamala Harris agree on one thing. Large corporate investors are fueling the nation's housing affordability crisis and should be discouraged from snapping up homes. I mean, yes? It's a rare occurrence of bipartisan consensus, but economists and housing analysts say they're both wrong. I don't know how they can be wrong about an opinion. I mean, are they wrong that they should be discouraged about snapping up homes? Or are they wrong about corporate investors maybe the fueling the nation's affordability crisis, which I agree is I think it's a part. I don't think it's fueling it. I think the fact that we built more homes from post World War II to 1980 or so is the primary driver. Personally, that's just from what I read. see, investors have purchased up to 30% of available homes at different points over the last few years, mostly turning them into rental housing. Rental homes are important, admittedly, but I think there are different costs and benefits to big businesses renting them versus mom and pops renting them. I think that be better to identify why people want to rent homes instead of rent apartments. And there's a lot of uh, qualitative information that probably needs to be looked at from here. Most of the buyers are small investors, but Harris, Vance, and other critics, including Sherrod Brown, are focusing on larger entities. Those, such as private equity firms that buy 100 homes or more, arguing that they're freezing home buyers out of the market and jacking up rents. Well, it is happening. The argument is to what degree, right? Industry experts say kicking investors out of the housing market is exactly the wrong approach. They say businesses are plowing much needed money into the market, including dilapidated homes that no one else will touch. Now, why won't they touch them? That's curious. Why would people not touch dilapidated homes? Is there an advantage to businesses versus people buying? And you know what? I can't blame people for not wanting to buy a dilapidated home, because guess what? Most people that are buying a home want to live in them. Is there a benefit to, let's say, a state buying a dilapidated home, having a private contractor improve them so that way they can sell them and not have to worry about the profit part, but just have the markup for the work that was done by the contractor so that way they can be lived in? Curious, just something I haven't really heard people talk about. That single-family home rentals serve a crucial purpose. Agreed. And that build-to-rent developments are adding to inventory at the same time when lack of supply is driving up prices. Build-to-rent developments are adding to inventory at a time when lack of supply. I don't even understand that part, to be honest. For some segments of both left and right politically, big, faceless corporations buying up homes and driving people out of homeownership is a recognized scapegoat, which doesn't get at the actual problem, said Jenny Schwetz, senior fellow at Brookings Institute's Metro program. Nobody wants to run for office saying the reason young people can't buy their first home is old people are staying in them too long or paying all cash. That would be politically suicidal. Well, suppose she's right. But why are old people staying in their home longer than expected? Again, if we just had more homes, then that would be a problem. But we stopped federally subsidizing home construction quite a long time ago. So let's see if they mention that. The battle underscores a broader political dynamic at play, with both parties casting around for solutions to one of the top concerns of voters, the increasingly high cost of housing. Not to mention they're also adding to like the anti-big business theme of this year's election too. Since most of the factors driving up prices include restrictive zoning, which the federal government can't do anything about, are determined at a local level, there is not a lot Washington can do. That's led frustrated politicians to scramble for new ideas to tackle the problem around the edges, including selling off surplus of federal land for the construction of affordable housing and establishing new grant programs to encourage localities to make it easier to build. It's easier to build. It's this little thing. It's a fair cloth amendment. We didn't have that limit of 1999 levels of publicly owned homes. Then federal government could just go in, they could buy the land, they could say, hey, developer, build. Developer builds, then there's more homes,
Developer
and then they
builds,
wouldn't have to worry about
then
zoning
there's
because
more
it's owned by
homes.
the
And
federal
then they wouldn't
government,
have to worry about zoning
which
because
local
it's owned by the
jurisdictions
federal
wouldn't really
government,
have any
which
control
local
over
jurisdictions
in
wouldn't
that
really
manner.
have any control
You
over
could do this so many different
in that
ways.
manner.
It is
You
actually
could do
possible.
this so many different ways.
It's amazing that this isn't going to mention anything like that. If it's going to mention any kind of suggestions or critiques, the critique is certainly largely on
the critique is certainly
on the Fair Cloth Amendment, and it's the lack of.
on the Fair
I,
Cloth
I
Amendment.
agree
And
that
it's the
local
lack of
zoning ordinances
I
are
agree that
a huge
local
factor. I think another one
zoning
is the fact that we
ordinances
just
are
don't
a
fund
huge factor. I think another one is the fact that we just don't
in any
fund
manner the home construction that we used to.
in any manner the home construction that we used to.
Yeah. Now, Harris has called on Congress to pass legislation sponsored by Brown, who chairs the Senate Banking Committee, that will prohibit investors who own 50 or more single-family rental homes from deducting interest or depreciation on those properties. Community after community feels taken advantage of by Wall Street investors and distant landlords. Her campaign said on its housing plan, and Harris pledged last month to take on corporate landlords who are hiking rental prices.
Corporate
I
landlords
mean, I don't think it's
who are
bad. I
hiking
just
rental
don't think
prices.
it's complete.
I mean, I don't think it's
an incomplete
bad.
plan.
I just don't think it's
I
complete.
don't know how much
It's
critique
an incomplete plan.
it needs.
I don't know how much critique
Unless that's the only thing she's doing, right? Vance singled out investor ownership of single-family homes as a problem for middle-class Ohioans in a speech declaring his run for Senate 3 years ago, and he's hammered in the issue in interviews since then. Institutional investors completely crowded out the availability for homes for people who want to buy just a piece of their community. Well, you could always critique your local zoning code,
Well, you could always
then, sir,
critique
as well,
your
right?
local zoning code.
Ro Khanna
then,
from
sir,
California has a
as well,
similar bill in
right?
the House. Homes should be
Ro Khanna
owned
from
by people.
California has a similar bill in the House.
I like that.
Homes should
Not
be owned
institutional
by
investors
people.
who are drastically increasing
I like
the
that.
cost of
Not
rent and
institutional
owning
investors
homes.
who are
Khanna
drastically
said in
increasing
an email
the
to
cost
Politico,
of rent
we need to
and
address the
owning
housing shortage
Khanna said
and
in an
build more.
email to Politico.
But
We need to
giving
address the
handouts to
housing
Wall Street
shortage
investors
and
is not the
build more.
solution.
But
That is
giving handouts to Wall Street investors is not the
And
solution.
Consumer Financial Protection
is
Bureau Director Rohit Chopra
And
joined
Consumer Financial Protection
the
Bureau
chorus on
Director
Friday
Rohit
during a
Chopra
Salt Lake
joined-
City event.
Chopra
The
joined
role of
the
big investors,
chorus on
and
Friday
especially private
during a
equity
Salt Lake
firms, in
City event.
purchasing so much
The role
rental
of big
housing.
investors
There's a
and
lot of
especially
evidence
private
that
equity firms
this
in
is
purchasing
creating
so
in
much
some
rental
ways
housing.
artificial
There's
scarcity
a
and
lot of
higher
evidence that
Neither
this
the
is
Harris
creating
nor the
in
Trump
some
Vance
ways
campaign.
artificial
It's weird that
scarcity
it
and high
is
rents.
Harris
Neither the
and
Harris
the Trump Vance
Trump
versus
Vance
Harris
It's weird that it
Walls
is the Harris and the
campaign
Trump Vance
responded
versus Harris
to questions about
Walls.
their plans. Large institutional
Campaign
investors with
responded
at
to
least 1,000
to
properties
questions
own
about their
about
plans.
3%
Large
of the 14
institutional
million
investors with
single-family
at least
rental homes
1,000
across the
properties
country
own
as of
about
2022,
3% of the
or nearly
14 million single-family
450,000
rental
homes
across
according
the
to
country
the
as of
Government
2022,
Accountability Office
or nearly
report, with
450,000
the
homes
5
according to
largest
the
investors
Government
alone
Accountability
owning
Office report,
2%.
with
5 investors,
5 largest
2% of the
investors
index.
alone owning 2%.
Interesting.
5 investors,
Institutional
2%
investors started buying foreclosed homes in the bulk
Interesting.
of the wake of 2008 financial
Institutional investors
crisis.
started buying
As
foreclosed
lending
homes in the
standards
bulk of the
tightened
wake of 2008
following the
financial
meltdown, larger
crisis.
investors had funding
As lending
advantages over
standards
smaller
tightened
ones, while
following
people
the
with low
meltdown,
credit
larger
scores were
investors
forced to
had
rent, increasing
advantages over
demand
smaller
for
ones,
single-family
while
homes.
people with low credit scores
Then
were
investor
forced to rent,
purchases soared
increasing
in the wake
demand
of the
for
pandemic
single-family
as
homes. Then investor
skyrocketing home
purchases
values
soared in
and
the
low
wake of the
borrowing
pandemic
rates
as
made single-family homes a desirable
skyrocketing
asset.
home values and low
Investors' share
borrowing
of
rates
single-family home
made
purchases
single-family
rose to
homes
just
a
under
desirable asset.
30% in January this year,
Investors' share
according
of
to
single-family
CoreLogic,
home
up
purchases
from an
rose
average
to
of
just under
16%
in
in the
January
3
this
years
year,
before the
according to
pandemic.
CoreLogic, from an
The
average
role
of
investors play in the
16%
market is
in the 3
complicated,
years before
said
the
Jim
pandemic.
Parrott, a non-resident fellow of
role
the
investors
Urban
play in the
Institute,
market is
who was a
complicated,
senior
said
White
Jim
House
Parrott,
economic
a
advisor in the
non-resident
Obama
fellow of the
administration.
Urban Institute, who was
There's
a
nothing
senior
per se
White
wrong
House
with the
economic
model,
advisor
especially
in the
because
Obama
some of them are
administration.
creating supply.
Nothing per se
Ah,
wrong with the model, especially
what's
because some of
problematic
them
is
are
that they
creating
have tax
supply.
incentives that make purchasing property
Ah,
in some sense easier
what's
to do than it
problematic
is
is
for
that they have
individual
tax
homebuyers. I mean,
incentives
for
that
people.
make purchasing property
I mean,
in
for
some
people.
sense easier to do than it is
A
for
bill
individual
limiting
homebuyers. I mean, for
depreciation
people.
write-offs for large investors
I mean,
in
for people.
housing could free up
A
additional
bill
revenue
limiting
when Congress
depreciation
reopens the
write-offs for
tax
large
code next
investors in
year to
housing
deal with
could free up
expiring
additional
tax cuts from
revenue when Congress
2017.
reopens the tax code next year to deal with
They
expiring
need
tax
to enact
cuts
a
from
tax package in
2017.
2025 Oh, sorry. The need to
They
enact a
need
tax
to enact
package
a
in
tax
2025
package
would
in
give Vance a unique
2025.
opportunity to
Oh, sorry.
deliver
The
his
need
pledge,
to enact a
force
tax package in
institutional
2025
owners
would
to
give
sell
Vance a
those
unique opportunity
properties
to
if Donald Trump
deliver
wins
his
in November.
pledge, to force
Seaberg
institutional
said
owners
in
to
a
sell
client
those
note.
properties
That
if
could
Donald
result
Trump
in as
wins
many
in
as
November.
570,000 additional
Said in a
single-family
client
housing
note.
units
That could
hitting the
result in
market
as many as
in 26 or 27.
570,000 additional single-family housing units hitting the market in
It's a lot of
26 or
coulds.
27.
Yet devising rules to curb the practice will be difficult.
It's a lot of
Oh, good.
coulds.
See, like,
Yet devising rules to curb
oh,
the
hey.
practice will be difficult. Oh, good.
On a
See,
practical
like,
level, how the federal government could write regulations that limit purchases by
on
a
a practical
particular
level,
kind of
how the
corporate
federal
entity,
government could
I don't know how you
write
do that.
regulations that
It would
limit
be really
purchases by a
difficult to write
particular kind
regulations
of
in a way that
corporate
is
entity.
transparent
I don't
and
know
could
how you
hold up
do
to
that.
litigation.
It would be
In other words, the
difficult to write
easiest way to do
regulations
this
in a way that is
is
transparent and could hold up to
local
litigation. In
localities
other words, the
zone
easiest way to
appropriately.
do this
Stop holding
is
back
local
developments.
localities zone
Let
appropriately.
organic
Stop
growth happen.
holding back
Of
developments.
you
Just
know, hazardous and
let
non-hazardous
organic
use
growth happen.
have floor area ratio limits, have high
hazardous and
restrictions that
non-hazardous use
are
have
favorable
floor
to
area
development
ratio
but not
limits, have high
unfavorable
restrictions that are
to people that just want
favorable
to
to
live there
development but
without
not
like you could still
unfavorable
have
to
high and low
to
height
that just want to
areas,
live there
but they
without
don't
like
all have to
you
be
can
single
still
family
have
homes that are
high and low
detached. They don't
height
have to be
areas,
only
but
one
they
or two
don't all have to
stories. You
be
can have them be
single-family
3 and
homes that are
4 stories and
detached. They
still
don't have to
feel
be
residential
only one or two
and
stories.
neighborly.
You can have them be 3 and
This is
4
actually
stories
like
and still
into
feel
some of our
residential
oldest
and
neighborhoods
neighborly.
in the country.
This is
They were
actually
already
like
3 or 4
we'll walk
stories,
around into
and
some of our
no
oldest
place can
neighborhoods in the
play.
country. They were already
Like
3 or
there
4
should just be
stories, and
uh,
nobody's
like just
complaining.
free up some room
Like
for
there should just be
growth, man.
like just
It's just
free up some room for growth, man.
that's really what it comes down to, and
Like it's
every
just,
level. Local government has
that's really what it comes down to, and
something that they could help with.
every level.
State government has something that they
Local
could help
government
with. Federal
has
has something they could help with. And
their
please,
something that they could
just
help
ask
with.
anybody that's
State government has
up for
something that they
Congress.
could help with. Federal has something
Are you
they
gonna
could help with.
repeal
And please,
Faircloth Amendment?
just ask anybody that's
That's
for Congress. Are you gonna repeal
just
Faircloth
such
Amendment?
a good one. I actually
That's-
now I need to.
It's just such a good one. I actually now
What I
need
actually
to,
should have even started with, because my district is actually
what I actually should have even started. Because
it's going through
my
some
district is
election
actually
stuff. It was some
it's
oh, here we go.
it's going through some election stuff. It was some oh, here we go.
Kraken Client Support is here to answer all your questions. We all need
our congressperson, and they
electing
the two candidates
our
had a debate.
Our congressperson,
and apparently
they had the two candidates had a debate.
Being mailed as we speak. Many people have already been receiving those ballots and are watching tonight, many people, to make a decision or get some guidance on this key congressional race. This district, as you might know, includes cities like Half Moon Bay, Palo Alto, Mountain View, San Jose, and Los Gatos, just to name a few. Here's our plan tonight. For the next 60 minutes, we will ask these two high-profile candidates some really pointed questions here about the key issues that they will face, that we all face here in the Bay Area. Let's meet our candidates. Tonight, former Mayor Sam Liccardo of San Jose. Mayor Liccardo, we were originally expecting to have this debate last week. You were battling laryngitis. We hope you're recovering well. Nice to see you.
Great to see you, Raj. Thanks for having me.
Our other candidates tonight, current California Assemblyman Evan Lowe. Assemblyman Lowe, nice to see you as well.
Happy Friday, Raj.
Nice to you. Also with us, our panelists, my colleague over at Telemundo 48, evening news anchor, Diana Monroy. and Guy Maserati, political and government correspondent for KQED. Let's go over some of the basic rules now. Each candidate will have 60 seconds to answer each question.
I don't know. Maybe
Moderators will have the right to call for a follow-up. The candidate will also have 30 seconds for those follow-up remarks. Each candidate will also have 1 minute to make a closing statement. Our studio audience here with us tonight has been asked to hold all applause and reaction until the end of this debate. A coin flip has determined that former Mayor Liccardo will kick things off. Mr. Liccardo, the road to get to this debate has taken longer than expected. A lot of finger pointing, a lot of accusations about who funded and initiated the recount, improper use of campaign funds, and even questions over laryngitis and rescheduling this debate. At the heart of all this seems to be a matter of ethics. Are you running an ethical campaign?
You know, Raj, first, I want to say I've enjoyed my thousands of conversations with residents.
Definitely sounds raspy.
It's taken a toll on my voice, so I want to apologize in advance for anybody who might have difficulty hearing.
He normally sounds a little bit raspy.
You should agree on one basic principle. Every vote should be counted. Every vote should be counted.
And we can't
not like this.
We had Evan Lowe and his attorneys attempting to stop a recount twice.
Maybe that just says how much
and he admitted in a public forum on June 14th in Los Altos that he did it because he thought he might lose if he had a full recount. Now, the Mercury News editorial board was very clear about this. They called it outrageous and they called it hypocritical. So it was a very simple approach. Let's make sure we count every vote. Obviously, it should be funded by the registrar, and it couldn't be in this case because of legal issues. I'd like to ensure that going forward, every registrar engages in a recount in this country where we have a close election.
Assemblyman Lowe, same question to you. Are you running an ethical campaign?
Well, thank you very much, and good evening for those of you who are recognizing Yom Kippur, whether or not you're watching vis-a-vis Telemundo. Buenas noches. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I just want to answer that question. Most certainly, we abide by the most ethical standards. That is the obligation that we have as public servants. But I want to make it very clear that you're going to hear a lot about Sam Liccardo's plan tonight. And what happened during his plan, we need to be reminded. When he was mayor of San Jose on the city council, he implemented a plan that dismantled public employees and public safety. In fact, 500 police officers left because he instituted his public safety plan. As a result, he even had to declare a state of emergency because of the rising crime rates. I know we're going to talk about many of these different issues, but it is important that we're talking about our records, not just rhetoric. You're going to hear a lot about a plan, but records matter. I, on the other hand, I'm supported by the San Jose Police Officers Association. I'm a legislator of the year by the California Police Chiefs Association. I will go to Congress to fight for our values, be truthful and authentic each and every day.
And just to be clear on that question, are you running an ethical campaign?
Absolutely.
Mr. Liccardo, I'll allow you some 30 seconds for a follow-up.
Thank you. I think it's interesting that he dodged the question of whether he's running an ethical campaign. Only one of these candidates is currently under FPPC investigation and has been for 4 years. It's Evan Lowe. Only one candidate is facing an FEC complaint from a nonprofit organization called Defend the Vote for his illegal attempts to funnel $1.6 million from his state account that is funded by PG&E, Chevron, and private prison corporations that cannot donate in any federal campaign.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't care about this.
The community timing here is going to be better.
I want some policy.
Mr. Liccardo, let's move on. Assemblyman Lowe, let's go to our next question now. We want to talk about something that's a global story right now, but has such a Bay Area impact. The tension in the Middle East is escalating and expanding. Israel, Hamas, Gaza, Lebanon, Iran. Congress, as you know, plays a critical role in funding and arming Israel and funding aid to Gaza. What is your position as it stands this evening, the Israel-Hamas war, and what role should America take in this situation?
Yeah, thank you, Raj. I'm going to answer that question, but I can't let that go unchallenged. You referenced to PG&E. Sam, you've taken thousands of dollars from PG&E. And the second point, you talked about a federal elections complaint. In fact, the government attorneys, also known as the Deputy District Attorneys Association, filed a complaint, an FEC complaint about the dark money funded by Michael Bloomberg that was requested by your former staffer in my name. Let's speak truths, and I want to answer this question specifically. We must help ensure that we protect and preserve democracies abroad. Our allyship to Israel is absolute, but we also need to be reminded that we need to empower them to defend themselves, while also realizing that we must minimize the loss of life. I've met with so many individuals here, the heartbreak from Muslims and Palestinians. We need to have an immediate ceasefire, which includes the release of hostages. I wear this regularly, bring them home to be reminded that they're still American hostages. Well, we need an immediate ceasefire, including the release of hostages, and that's what I'm committed to be able to do.
Mr. Liccardo, your response, what role should America have in this growing conflict in the Middle East?
And I also want to wish a very blessed Yom Kippur for those who may be watching after today. We have to do whatever we can to end this war. This war is becoming regional conflagration, and we need to stop before there's more bloodshed. We need to do what we can to ensure that we have a deal that ensures hostages are returned expeditiously, and we accelerate aid to nearly 2 million Palestinians who critically need it. And now we've got a new front in this war in the north, and it's critical in Lebanon that we engage with Arab allies throughout the region, Jordan, Egypt, and others, to see how we can get them engaged with us to ensure that Hezbollah is no longer a threat south of the Litani River. We've got to do more as a country in partnership with other countries to ensure that we are not going to continue to see a situation in the Middle East where we've got armed insurgencies that are committed to the destruction and elimination of Israel. We need to continue to support Israel within U.S. law.
And to be clear, do you support a ceasefire in the Middle East right now?
Yes.
Let's go.
I feel like they're both talking a lot. I mean, that's just like the. So essentially, this is what I'm expecting across the board. Actually, it's just they're both going to give like basic. I mean, that's Democratic Party answers. Essentially, this is what I'm expecting not much across the board. Daylight in between. They're both going to give basic answers. Democratic you could read into Party answers. To each of them a little bit more. Daylight between either of those. Both barely answers. Mention. You could read into the fact that Palestinians are to each of them a little bit more. How one-sided is this quote-unquote war? You know, and they don't really talk about the Palestinians very much at all. How I think Liccardo one-sided is this quote-unquote war? You know, sounded. And they don't really talk about the Palestinians more very much at all. Like I think Liccardo obviously they both said ceasefire. Sounded good for them. Very the least possible thing you could say right now, right? Like not. Obviously, I feel like they both said ceasefire. Good for them. Very they both didn't sound very much like they have a lot of empathy for the people that I feel like they are getting bombed in tents and stuff like that, as though they are like the power players for the people that are feel like that's what you're gonna get this whole thing though. Stuff like that, as though they is who can like the best align themselves with the Democratic Party. I don't know. I feel
move on now. We're talking about immigration. This is an issue that's so relevant in the Bay Area and this entire country. And for that, we turn it over to Deanna Monroy from Telemundo 48.
Thank you, Raj. Good evening. I start with you, Mr. Liccardo. Mr. Liccardo, U.S. immigration policy is broken. Who should take the lead in changing it, the president or Congress? And what should change look like?
The answer should always be Congress. There's a reason why it took so long for the Biden administration to act. If anybody is wondering, says, why didn't you act sooner? It's because you want Congress to make a law, so that way you don't have to just have whatever you did as an presidential act. Why didn't you act sooner? It's because you want Congress to make a law, so that way you just overridden by whoever comes in next. You want Congress to make laws. Right now, Congress is so defunct; they don't make laws anymore. I don't even care. So then you need to just result. So then that's why you see these presidential acts. Congress is so defunct; they don't make being laws done. Why'd you wait so long? Because I thought that Congress would actually do their job. I don't know what to say. So then that's why you see these presidential acts as
it's important for us to recognize that we can have both a safe, secure border and I thought that Congress would actually do their job. We don't need to put these objectives against each other. I was a former criminal prosecutor, a federal prosecutor at the southern border, and I prosecuted criminal organizations that were involved in human trafficking and exploiting incredible human despair. We need more technology, we need more resources, and we need certainly to see Mexico step up to its responsibility at its southern border with Chiapas, in Chiapas, I should say. But all those things, of course, things that are going to require both Congress and the president working together. So yes, we need a safe, secure border. We also need more immigration. Legal immigration is the fuel of our country. It is so essential to what we are, our American character, and it's critical for our economy. We know that our economy benefits as we have more immigration, so we need much more legal immigration. I have a very specific plan about how to do that in my book.
Thank you, Mr. Liccardo. Mr. Love, the same question. What should immigration reform look like, and who should lead it?
Yes. Well, in answering your question, we must have comprehensive immigration reform. As you may know, there is a bipartisan bill that's worked through Congress. Unfortunately, Donald Trump said, please do not pass this until post-election. I'm working alongside Kamala Harris in making sure that we deliver that bill to her desk and gets that signed into law. But I also want to reference the unique nature of our district of Silicon Valley. We know that in Half Moon Bay, there are undocumented farm workers who are struggling and working hard to put food on the table. We know that there are dreamers who were brought to this country, I should say, at a young age, and then because 18 years old and don't understand where they are, land of no place. We also know that there are highly skilled workers that we need vis-a-vis the immigration reform and the highly skilled workers as well. And we need to stamp visa along with those who graduate. Those are the type of programs that makes up the essence of Silicon Valley. But I want to be very clear, we must continue to strengthen the border, and I'm excited to be the Democratic Party endorsed candidate along Kamala Harris to be partners with her in making sure that that bill gets to her desk for signature.
Thank you, Mr. Aloy. I have another question for you. District 16 has several sanctuary cities, and there is a debate over the protections and community safety. How far should protections go?
Well, I think it is important that we fundamentally have a government.
This is a federalism question. You don't even need to really, again, this is another short answer. It's like, hey, go, well, that's dependent on those jurisdictions. That's, if they want their police resources to go to
really, again, this is
somewhere else other than
like,
helping
depending on
ICE, then that's
those jurisdictions.
Their right. That's
they want
part
their
of federalism,
police
as it stands
resources
today.
To go to somewhere else other than
what else is there to say?
ICE, then that's
government that provides an opportunity to keep our community safe. Fundamentally, as I mentioned, this is not just rhetoric, but a lived experience for me. We realize that there are some in this country that are committing crime, and we should be able to address those issues. But it's also important that we take a...
I find it hard to believe that if there weren't people committing crimes, that police wouldn't work with ICE with them.
I find it hard to believe.
I find that hard to believe. And I don't even
that if there weren't people committing,
if that's the only
committing crimes
thing with being a sanctuary city
with them,
and you want to amend it to that and say I hope that these cities, only
if that's
the only they reserve the right. I hope they want to work with us to get people that have
sanctuary city
crimes
and you want to amend it to that and say I hope that these cities
what kind of crimes not first in law or whatever
they reserve the right. I hope they want to work with us to get people that have committed
not big
crimes
you just make it easy to just I don't know
here what kind of crimes
your document it should be so easy
right. Like,
I don't even get it.
Other than
I'm not going to pretend to.
But it should be easy to just
easy and quick.
It should be so
cost effective, and we should actually have a staffed immigration group that can do this easily. Because there's no reason that people
cost effective
should have to sneak in
and. We should actually have
a staffed not be documented. Just like
group that can
have
do
proper
this easily. Because there's no reason that people.
That's what it really should be saying. Is we want to make sure. I mean, bolster that bill even more. Say we want to have easy documentation. So that way people can
have it funded.
Check in almost like a.
That's what it really should be saying.
Like a counselor and parole in one, and just make sure that they have everything that they need as far as jobs go. Is anybody mistreating you? Making sure that, because otherwise, like
a counselor and parole.
There's some bad things that can happen if you start to think, this is just how my understanding of this area was going to be this, but now being mistreated. Is this how I'm supposed to like? I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying
some bad things that can happen. You start just thinking, this is just those who are working hard to obtain the California American dream, which is why I get back to the point of comprehensive immigration reform and uniquely situated in Silicon Valley, understanding that we're at a wide swath of so many people.
I'm just saying it's possible.
Thank you, Mr. Aloy. Mr. Ricardo, the same question. How far should sanctuaries protections go?
As far as,
when I was mayor of San Jose, we made it very clear, without declaring any sanctuary status, that we were ensuring that every single undocumented person in our community would be served by our city. And that everyone should feel comfortable reporting to the police or the fire department without any risk of apprehension or fear of apprehension. That's critical for the safety of our entire community. You can imagine what happens when there's a sexual assault that goes unreported because of someone's fear of deportation, or perhaps a fire that doesn't go reported in a community that's obviously at risk. We need to ensure that everyone feels safe, and that's not just my view, it's the view of the U.S. Major Chiefs Association. That is the chiefs of police of every major city in the country that have weighed in very clearly on this issue. That's why I feel very strongly about it, and as mayor of San Jose, we were the first city in the country to sue the Trump administration over DACA. I feel strongly about doing what we can to ensure we have a pathway to citizenship for all of our residents.
follow-up goes to you. 30 seconds, Assemblyman Lowe.
Yeah, I just wanted to reference the question was also about keeping our community safe. And out of Mr. Liccardo's mouth was police and fire. There's a reason why the San Jose Police Officers Association endorses my candidacy, because when he was on the city council, he decimated the police department. Why? He took away disability benefits vis-a-vis pension reform measures on Measure B. The San Jose Firefighters Association is endorsing my candidacy. I take it back to no one. Public safety is important and our records are important. So you're going to hear a lot about what he did in San Jose, but the records speak for itself.
We will get back to crime in this district. We want to move on to homelessness.
Unrelated,
right
I would hope to have an opportunity to respond.
You will, Mayor Liccardo. Let's get to homelessness right now. Let's get it over to our colleague at KQED, Guy Marzorati. Guy.
Thanks, Raj. Sam Liccardo, in your 2021 State of the City address, you called homelessness San Jose's greatest failure. And you said, quote, I take responsibility for that failure. So why should voters give you another chance on such an important issue in Congress?
Homelessness is the greatest failure for every major city in the country that is struggling with it. Right now, we have 44 cities in this country, many of whom, actually most of which are outside California, that have at least 1,000 unhoused residents. It's a huge challenge. But because of the work that we were able to do in San Jose, in pioneering efforts around quick build housing, around homelessness prevention, around converting motels to housing 4 years before it became a statewide model, we were able to reduce street homelessness by 11% in my final year in office in 2022 and provide a model that many other cities have followed as a result. But we need more federal help. That doesn't necessarily mean money. We need federal obstacles to get out of the way. We need to eliminate those barriers in Medicaid reimbursements that prevent local communities from providing drug treatment and substance abuse treatment in large facilities. We need to eliminate barriers in the Section 8 program that prevent us from being able to get federal reimbursements for quick build housing and other innovative housing types.
Thank you, Mr. Liccardo. Assemblymember Lowe, this is an issue that California has struggled with during your time in the state legislature. Why should voters have faith that you're the best candidate on this issue?
Well, I'm proud of the fact that we've delivered records amount of resources directly to our local communities here in San Mateo and Santa Clara counties. In fact, close to $2 billion here in Santa Clara County as we sit here. But you know, we can't just simply throw money at the problem. We actually had to make changes in holding cities accountable. And in fact, a state auditor, an independent auditor, audited the city of San Jose during Mr. Liccardo's tenure. And you know what that audit found? The audit found that homelessness increased 40%. You know, just don't take my word for it. We'll put the state auditor's report on my website so members of the public can see for themselves. In addition, as you well reported, the state of California provides goals to making sure that cities build accordingly. The city of San Jose, again, during his tenure, according to this audit, missed the mark by 13,128 units. So we actually had to change state law to hold cities accountable. I'm going to Congress and supporting Kamala Harris on the Democratic Party ticket and making sure that we have opportunities like $25,000 tax credits for first-time home buyers, building 3 million new jobs, and this is an essential threat for all of us.
Well, let's talk about that audit, because it's found that the state of California is not effectively tracking the money that it's spending to reduce homelessness. You've been in the state legislature. You voted to approve more than $20 billion, billions of dollars to try to reduce homelessness. Should you have demanded more accountability with all that spending?
Absolutely. You know, the only mistake that we did, at the state is give Sam Liccardo that money, because as a result, this auditor specifically called out City of San Jose, actually 2 cities out of hundreds of cities, specifically called out San Jose. Don't take my word for it. Take a look at the state audit report yourself. So again, facts matter. He talked about a plan of homelessness and addressing it. Well, the plan failed. And these are direct results of how we make sure that we hold ourselves accountable. That's why I'm going to Congress and making sure, exactly answering your question, we need to be doing better. Enough is enough. I'm going to Congress to fight and make sure that the public taxpayer dollars goes directly to where it should go with measurable results.
Former Mayor Liccardo, I want to give you a chance to respond to that audit and its criticisms of San Jose.
Certainly. Evan Lowe has demonstrated absolutely zero leadership on homelessness in the 10 years he's been in the Assembly, despite the fact that we've had a crisis where homelessness has increased statewide by an even higher rate than it did in the city of San Jose. And in fact, of course, we've seen no legislation from Evan Lowe that he has led, that he's actually written and gotten over the goal line to address that crisis. What we know about the audit is the same auditor within a month found that the state of California had failed to account for $9 billion in spending. Most of our spending in the city of San Jose didn't rely on the state spending. We didn't use their tracking. We used one very simple measure: reduction of street homelessness. Not our measure, the County of Santa Clara. And by that measure, while homelessness was rising everywhere else in 2022, it was being reduced by 11% in San Jose, because we were launching innovative programs that were working, and we need a federal partner that will enable us to make those programs work better.
Well, he did have a state partnership that, I mean, honestly, their goal here appears to be make the other person look worse when. Well, he did have a state. I don't know. I don't feel like either of them are going to go as hard on housing stuff as they should or could.
Their goal here appears to be make the other person look worse when
they're missing the mark. I personally am not a fan of either.
I don't feel like either of them.
That's why I'm watching this. I don't even know who I'm going to.
30 seconds.
I mean, I think that's just really rich, Raj. Sam, you need to address your own failings as mayor. the truth of the matter is, take a look at San Jose Spotlight. They reported even on one project in which he committed to over 1,000 homes, only 73 temporary housing units. And you know, Sam, you just attacked the state. If you want to attack the state, just say his name, Governor Gavin Newsom. But I'm staunchly defending Gavin Newsom and making sure that we have accountability. These resources were record amount of resources directly to local communities. An audit came out with a report, measurable results, and we need to hold cities accountable.
You have 30 seconds to respond, Mayor Liccardo.
Thank you. You know, I mentioned an issue of leadership. Evan Lowe has failed to show any leadership on this issue and virtually any other. He hasn't held any leadership position in the Assembly since he was removed from his chair position in 2021, and the only chair position he held on a committee. He's got 79 colleagues in this state Assembly who he works with every single day over the last 10 years. How many have endorsed his run for Congress? Two out of 79. I've got 4 times as many. I don't even work in the Assembly.
434 other people.
I do want to go back to crime because I said both of you were interested in doing this. So let's go back to that. Assemblyman Lowe, a candidate track record speaks volumes to voters. What can you point to that indicates that you're going to be tough on crime? You were alluding to it earlier, so I'll let you a chance now to answer that in full.
Well, just on piggyback on what Sam mentioned, I'm endorsed by the California Democratic Party. I'm the only candidate endorsed by the party because they've seen our plans. I'm the only candidate endorsed by teachers, firefighters, public safety, transit workers, because they've seen our respective plans. So I take it back to no one on the endorsements that I am proud to be the Democratic Party ticket. Now, you asked the question about crime. You're going to hear a lot of fuzzy math about his plan, that he added 200 police officers. I have to tell you about this fuzzy math. 200 minus 500 equals negative 300. Sam, you still owe the city of San Jose and its residents 300 police officers for the devastating that you did. And as a result, as I mentioned earlier, a state of emergency because of your own failings. This is important to be able to tackle and address. Now, look, I'm going to Congress to be able to specifically advocate for the provision of a Clinton crime bill, that we need more police officers. We need more. Sam is the original defunder of police. I strengthen police officers, and that's why I'm endorsed by the San Jose Police Officers Association. I'll continue to advocate.
Assemblyman Lowe, I think you're referring to Measure B. Former Mayor Liccardo, when you were a council member in San Jose, you supported Measure B, which did slash the pension and benefits for many San Jose police officers and firefighters. The San Jose Police Officers Association does not endorse you.
Let's not forget also
you can
like
reduce crime with less staff.
Over 1,300, I think it is, or maybe 1,100, I forget. Just regular city employees that also, now San Jose has different tiered pension programs, and that we found out since
over
that, I think it was 2008
maybe
11 or 11. I forget. No, I think it was 11.
Just regular city
plan
that also
to tier the systems. San Jose is a less desirable place to work for their retirement program compared to other jurisdictions, other public jurisdictions. In their retirement plans.
I forget.
Are you tough on crime?
We want to get the best people.
Your track record in the city of San Jose?
I think it's more important to be smart on crime. And when I led San Jose, I left the city with the lowest homicide rate of any major city in the United States. Yes, I supported pension reform, and then I resolved the pension reform battle in 2015, ultimately with a ballot measure in 2016. That enabled us, during my tenure as mayor, to add more than 200 police officers. And if you need to check the facts on that, please go to district16facts.com, where you can find objective sources from the media as well as public records that demonstrate what the real facts are. That's why I'm endorsed by 2 former San Jose police chiefs that I served with. No, I'm not supported by the police union. Here's why he's supported by the police union. Because time and time again, Evan Lowe has supported efforts like opposed efforts like SB 1421, which have, in an effort to prevent the disclosure of public records that should be available to the public of police misconduct, sexual assault, and excessive use of force. He's been supported by more than $200,000.
Mr. Liccardo, we're going to cut you off there. We're going to move on. We've addressed crime. Let's move on to housing here. This is something that impacts almost everyone in this studio, everyone watching at home right now. New data estimates that you need to make $300,000 a year to afford a starter home in your district. This question goes to you, former Mayor Liccardo. What specific steps, not generalities, what specific steps would you do to build more housing in this district and more affordable housing?
Go.
In the book, which you can read on samliccardo.com, I talk about several different ideas in a divided Congress that we could actually get passed. For example, using an expanded tax credit program called New Markets Tax Credit to transform vacant office buildings and retail and hotels into housing. How we can streamline low-income housing tax credit to make it easier for smaller communities to be able to take advantage of this program. And how we can enable more inventory of older homes get out on the market by increasing the exemption on capital gains, so that older homeowners who want to sell their homes will not have to pay
construction loans at low
and can do so and get more of those older homes out on
just like we used to.
Younger families can get access to them.
We've done it before.
Supply problem, and we need to reduce the cost and price by producing more housing. I've got a very specific plan on doing that at samlacarter.com.
You
can see more
promise
ideas there.
Assemblyman Lowe, question over to you. What specific steps will you do if you get to Congress to address more housing here in District 16 and more affordable housing?
Yeah, I'll answer that question.
We've done
Because
it
on the issue of
before.
public safety, I can't let that go unchallenged. My brother is in this audience tonight. He's a San Jose police officer. And if you don't believe me, just ask any police officer in the city of San Jose about Sam Liccardo's track record. It speaks very clearly as to who supports public safety. Now, your question was also about homelessness and housing. And you heard, again, a plan. Under his plan that he implemented in the city of San Jose, 40% increase in homelessness, no measurable results, saw a loss of 13,128 missed marked on the state specifically.
If I can jump in, the question is to you, what would you do?
And as a result, the comparison is important for a record. In the record of the legislature, we have passed record legislation on funding to local communities while also making sure that we're allowing cities commensurate with a general plan to build accordingly on accessory dwelling units.
No
and in
fair
Congress,
cloth.
I will go and partner as a Democratic Party ticket along with Kamala Harris in implementing 3 million new homes to be built, including $25,000 tax credits.
They're not all going to be here.
That is really important in Congress.
Let's get to a lot of this with small businesses.
So you're not going to do anything different.
Let's get to a lot of the small businesses that are watching here. Over to Diana Monroy from Telemundo.
Thank you, Raj. Mr. Lowe, the question is for you. Small businesses are struggling now. They face complicated regulations and high costs for labor and materials. What policies are you proposing to help small businesses in this district?
Anything different than
Well, my first job was at the Campbell Chamber of Commerce, and I used to work at a restaurant called Mio Vicino in downtown Campbell, so I understand the unique challenges of small businesses alike. In the California State Legislature, we've also recognized the importance of small business being the backbone of our society.
What are you
going to
do?
Travel throughout our congressional district, listening to individuals at farmers markets in Palo Alto or doing merchant walks in Pacifica and Half Moon Bay, listening to these issues. And in the state level, we provided tax credits and incentives. I want to do that in Congress as well, too, helping to make sure that we're getting resources and supporting business owners.
Ham of house, so sorry.
That is a key critical
don't know why
component
this.
why I want to. But I also want to say this.
Chat is
As
on.
that I've talked to small business owners, a key issue that they're concerned about is public
now it
safety.
shows
They
up.
don't feel safe. They don't feel safe at all.
Well,
and
for
that's why
everybody
I'm the
here
best
watching,
candidate
let me
equipped
see
in
if I
tackling
can-
these issues. My opponent specifically has decimated the San Jose Police Department. On the other hand, my track record is clear.
Ham of
I've
house,
strengthened
so
law
sorry.
enforcement,
I
strengthened the
don't know
profession,
why
and we
this
need more funding for police officers. And that's a
chat isn't
specific
on it.
top priority for small businesses, as I've heard from the district.
Thank you, Mr. Lowe. Mr. Ricardo,
now
how
it
would you
shows
plan
up.
for help small businesses?
Well, for
Well, it's interesting to
everybody
hear
here watching,
Evan Lowe's
let me see
response
if I can-
because in 10 years he's been in the legislature. We've heard a sucking sound in small businesses out of the state, and I haven't seen any significant leadership from him on the
burn.
issue. What I propose specifically in my book is how we could provide, for example, federally backed financing to help small businesses and homeowners reduce their utility costs by investing in those kinds of energy efficient appliances and heat pumps, solar, and so forth that can reduce utility costs. I propose, for example, how we can have a more focused antitrust enforcement strategy so that small retailers are not squeezed out by Walmart and everyone else. And I've really focused on theft because right now there's a lot of retailers who are paying a very big theft tax in this state. And I believe with a federal statute that enables local law enforcement to actually make arrests on thefts, which they cannot do in so many cases right now in the state of California, to enable cross-designation of local police to be able to enforce on a federal statute, we could do much more to ensure accountability on theft and help a lot of small businesses.
Assemblyman Lowe, you have 30 seconds.
I just can't believe that he just said that businesses are sucking out of California. Again, you're attacking Governor Gavin Newsom and the state legislature, who you claim that also is supporting you. These are important to address the failings under your own record. And this is also about not just record, but rhetoric. And when we're talking about small businesses, I'm glad that we're talking about supporting businesses, but also workers. That's why hotel workers, you not hear hotel workers support my candidacy, because a business cannot thrive without its workers. And I've strengthened protections for workers each and every day, including land-breaking legislation on bereavement leave in the state of California.
Diana, your next question.
Yeah, I mean, my next question is for you, Mr. Ricardo.
We're going to move on to the next question.
sorry.
Former President Trump has said he would end the policy of
District
temporary
16
protected status for immigrants. Do you agree to eliminate the TPS?
I'm working
No, I
on
don't.
getting that info on
Why?
it.
You know, it goes back to my fundamental proposition. We can have a safe and secure border, and we can have more legal immigration. And it's important for us to be able to do both because it's critical right now for our country.
Yeah.
We need temporary protective status, obviously, for those
for
who are
District
fleeing
16,
persecution and harm. And that is a critical element. It's not just essential in our federal law, but also in international
Working
law.
on
human rights
getting that
law.
info
We
on
don't
it.
need to counter or undermine our own values or principles in order to have a safe and secure border. I saw how we could do it in the 1990s when I was a federal prosecutor at the border. I know we can do it with more technology, more resources, particularly at the ports of entry where we know that there are unique challenges there, and ensuring that we have more resources around immigration processing. We've got a 3 million case backlog right now in the immigration courts. Congress has to get serious about either addressing that backlog or providing an alternative remedy.
Thank you, Mr. Ricardo. Mr. Lowe, what do you think about TPS?
Yeah, it's important that we are acknowledging the importance of the issues. I'm not supporting of repealing. What is important, though, that is we recognize the spirit of Silicon Valley and the American spirit as well. Look, I'm fourth-generation Californian speaking more Spanish than I do Chinese. That's the American dream, American way. And it's important that we provide opportunities for our futures as well. I'm deeply committed to doing so. We talked about comprehensive immigration reform. I also would support greater funding for our consulates to expedite existing programs to allow for the system in place to work more efficiently. That's what I'm deeply committed to. But I just want to mention something else too. It's important that we respect who we're supported by. I'm proud to be endorsed by the Democratic Party in supporting Kamala Harris's vision, the Harris-Walsh vision. In comparison and contrast, my opponent is supported by Trump donors, and also Sam is endorsed by the American Independent Party, founded by George Wallace, the segregationist. So when we're talking about immigration, he's supported by the party founded by segregationists. That's not what we deserve in our congressional district.
Not a good look.
I am the embodiment of making sure
I don't want to reply to that one.
For everyone.
Mr. Liccardo, you have 30 seconds to follow up.
Of course.
I know Evan Lowe relies a lot on these endorsements because he doesn't have a record to run on. But here's the deal. I'm endorsed by the largest Democratic caucus in the House of Representatives. It's called the New Democrat Coalition. I'm also endorsed by the Hispanic Congressional Caucus, which is entirely Democratic. I'm endorsed by the Coast Side Democrats, which is, I think, pretty darn important to have.
He's going to want to reply to that one.
I'm supported by the High School Young Democrats, a whole host of organizations. I'm endorsed by former Congresswoman Jackie Speer and many, many Democrats from throughout the region. This is all just specious.
Your time is up. We are talking immigration, even within the Democratic Party. And this goes a question for you first, Mr. Lowe. Vice President Kamala Harris was just asked last week if she would do anything differently from President Biden when it comes to his border policy. She said no. Would you fight to change our immigration policy? If so, how?
Well, absolutely, and that's why I'm excited to be the Democratic endorsed candidate alongside Kamala Harris in implementing that vision. We talked about it earlier, that there's a bipartisan bill that I'm excited to be elected to Congress and getting that to her desk. But it's not just about that, reflecting our values and our rhetoric. We know that we are a land of opportunity and providing opportunities for everyone. So the comprehensive immigration reform is a buzzword, but it's important that we're actually getting it done and actually recognizing the distinction of the different people in our respective districts.
The question is, would you have changed anything from President Biden the last 3 years in terms of immigration?
Anything at all.
Mr. Liccardo, question goes to you. Would you fight to change our immigration policy? And if so, why?
Well, first, we do need comprehensive immigration reform. I was very active on Capitol Hill in 2013 in lobbying for a comprehensive immigration bill, and we were very close to getting it to the floor. But it requires both Democrats and Republicans, which means you actually have to reach across the aisle to get support from others. I have an opponent who cannot even get the support of his own Democratic colleagues in his own assembly, which has a supermajority of Democrats. The assembly member representing this district, Mark Berman, has just endorsed me. The assembly member who was the speaker, previous to this one, has just endorsed me. The assembly member, Buffy Wicks,
they're so similar, it's really hard to even tell.
Has endorsed me. Why? Because the colleagues
I mean, from my perspective, at least, for what I'm interested in, housing and transportation primarily.
He's never had leadership position since he was removed from his chair position, and he cannot lead them. How do we expect them now, in Republicans in the Congress, to be able to respond to his leadership?
Your time is up. And just to be clear, would you have changed anything in Biden policy administration in the last 3 years?
Yes, I believe the Biden administration was too slow to respond to the crisis at the border. I think President Biden would probably acknowledge that
from my
as well.
perspective, at least, for
what
what I'm
Maserati,
interested in,
KQED,
housing and transportation.
Thanks. I want to circle back to a police reform law that was mentioned earlier. This was a 2018 bill that opened up police misconduct records around the state. You voted against it. Now, in the years since that bill became law, we've seen thousands of cases of misconduct, of abuse, of use of force on the part of law enforcement officers across California come to light. So do you regret voting against making those records public?
Well, I won't answer that question, but, Sam talked about all of his supporters. You know who's supporting him? The former Republican anti-union mayor, Michael Bloomberg, the out-of-state billionaire trying to buy his election. Now, why is Mr. Bloomberg supporting Sam? It's because he's also read his anti-union plan. Mr. Bloomberg also had proposals to cut Social Security. That's why he's supporting Mr. Liccardo. That is the distinction also. And again, I referenced it, the urgency in recognizing the truth. The American Independent Party, founded by the segregationists on this question of immigration reform, that's the party that supports Mr. Liccardo. And answering your question now about immigration, about public safety. Look, I take a backseat to no one on public safety. I've supported decertification of police officers. I've strengthened peace officer standards and training, making sure that we're strengthening the profession while also holding peace officers accountable at the same time. How do we make sure that we're balancing this approach about strengthening the profession, the morale, but also getting rid of the cops who may not live up to those type of standards? So I've been there, and actually that's what I want to do in Congress, getting more resources in that specific provision of the Clinton crime bill, especially for Congress to strengthen law enforcement.
But after seeing the records that have been released as a result of this law over the last 6 years, do you regret your vote on that?
It's kind of crazy that actually...
I'm very much in support of strengthening the police department and making sure that we have accountability and transparency. That is the utmost importance of what we fight for.
Former Mayor Liccardo, should those records have been made public?
Sexual assault, excessive use of force,
and they don't have one for
these are all crimes. And when police officers commit these crimes, the public has a right to know about it. That's why it's called the Right to Know Act. And Evan Lowe was one of the very few Democrats to vote against it, astoundingly. It shouldn't be that astounding because he voted against other public disclosure laws to the benefit of the police unions. And that's why those unions have contributed more than $200,000 to his various state assembly campaigns. And of course, another $75,000 to his super PAC in this race. I understand why the police unions support Evan Lowe. I, on the other hand, not only support the Right to Know Act, Mercury News editorial board commended me for my efforts to accelerate release of records in the city of San Jose several years ago. I also led efforts to expand oversight of the police,
down
the
in,
independent police
and
auditor's
what each
office,
of them
and took a
is
measure in the
up
ballot
in
2020
the
to
respective
successfully do that.
different
That's why the police unions don't support me.
Evan Lowe, 30 seconds to respond.
I mean, this is complete nonsense. And the fact of the matter is, and we talk about record as mayor, let's be reminded, San Jose Spotlight, a renowned journalistic organization, sued Mr. Liccardo because he hid public emails, public access. So we're talking about transparency and accountability. Let's make sure that we're speaking clearly to the record. I stand abundantly firm on making sure that peace officers, my brother included, has the utmost highest level of integrity, and will continue to be committed to doing so in Congress by getting more resources, by strengthening the profession, and making sure that we have the skill sets of peace officers, and we don't just send them on the streets. We need to help support them.
Sam Liccardo, voters across the state this November will be voting on Proposition 36. This is a state ballot measure to make it easier to charge felonies for drug possession, for theft. Do you support Prop 36?
I do. I'll vote for it. I think it's an imperfect proposition. I'd probably be doing things a bit differently. But fundamentally, we need accountability for crime. It doesn't mean people need to go to prison for 5 or 10 years. It means there needs to be an arrest every time that a crime is committed. And that is the whole fundamental deterrent. And every criminologist will tell you if there's no arrest and no consequence, then crime will continue to proliferate. And as it has during the entire 10 years.
But every criminologist would also say that
I have
if
supported
people are in
sensible
poor
approaches,
economic
and what I propose in my book,
conditions,
is
they're
to
more
provide
likely
federal
to
law,
commit that
which
crime
will,
in the first
across
place.
50 states, provide a lower threshold for arrests on theft
again,
and
how are you
burglary and
going
other crimes. So that
improve people's economic
neighborhoods
well-being?
and small retailers who are just constantly traumatized by all
Which
of
isn't
the
the topic of the
and are
question,
struggling with it,
but
have a basis
that's
to
what
have a
I'm
local law
agree.
enforcement arrest on a federal statute if the state statute isn't going to be available. It's been in action on Evan Lowe's part, and it's very disappointing.
Evan Lowe, this issue of Prop 36 has divided Democrats. The mayor here in San Jose supports it. Governor Gavin Newsom is opposed to Prop 36. Where do you stand?
I'm not in support. I refuse to go back to the era of mass incarceration. If Mr. Liccardo was paying attention to what we did at the state level, helping to make sure that we have record retail theft package bills, helping to make sure that we tackle the issue of aggregate loss, making sure that if there are stolen goods, that there's aggregate of those losses, helping to make sure if there's damage done during a theft, that will be prosecuted, and to also make sure that if a car is broken into and there's no damage, that person will also face penalties. So when it comes to crime, it's important that we don't go back to the era of mass incarceration, and I'm proud of this work that we've done at the state level, because the fact of the matter is that governing is important, and we're working with public safety officials. That's why I've been named Legislator of the Year by the California Police Chiefs Association, Legislator of the Year by the California Police Officers Association, known as PORAC. I'm endorsed by our county sheriff. I've been Legislator of the Year by the California District Attorneys Association. So again, it is important that the fundamental role of government is keeping our community safe, but we must do so in a surgical way. Our residents expect that.
Sam Liccardo, Evan Lowe said this measure will take us back to the era of mass incarceration. What do you say?
Arrest does not mean incarceration. I know that as a former criminal prosecutor, and of course I'm endorsed by our DA, Jeff Rosen, here in this county, and by Christina Corpus, the sheriff up in San Mateo County. It's important for folks to understand that. What we need is accountability. Someone's arrested, they're brought before a judge, and the judge makes a very simple decision. Hey, you can choose drug treatment, or you may have an option of going to jail, but you make that choice. Right now, that choice is never presented. As a result, our drug courts are completely empty. This is the one mechanism we have to actually break the connection between substance abuse and crime, and we are not able to use it because nobody's getting arrested.
Your time is up. We're going to move on. Just to be clear, though, you are in support of Prop 36, which aligns yourself with the San Jose current mayor right now, and Assemblyman Lowe, you are against Prop 36, which is aligning with Governor Newsom. Okay, Diana Monroy, Telemundo.
Thank you, Rush. Mr. Lowe, many small businesses say the homeless crisis is driving away customers. How would you balance the needs of businesses with the struggle of our homeless population?
Well, I'm glad that you asked that question. I referenced it earlier, that when I also have been traveling throughout this district and talking to small business owners, public safety is a key core issue in tackling homelessness. And it's important that we're addressing the issue on the resources. So again, at the state level, we've provided records amount of resources, billions of dollars directly towards local municipalities in tackling this issue. But it's not just about the cost and affordability shelter. It's also about economic security and access. And that's why I'm supported by workers and labor unions, because it's important that they also have opportunities because of the high cost of living. We need to also help support more of the efforts to getting affordable housing, not just market rate housing. And again, my track record is very clear. I'm going to D.C. to be able to do exactly that and tackling these issues of getting the resources, but getting the policy changes. By comparison and contrast, that audit was very clear. Homelessness increased 40%. An independent auditor, 40% under Mr. Liccardo's watch. I'm going to make sure that we have accountability and transparency because our district deserves better.
Thank you. Mr. Liccardo, how do you balance the two issues?
Well, there's no question we need to do more to help people get housed. That is the only solution for homelessness. And right now, we have a very rigid federal government that does not pay attention to this issue. What I proposed in my book is a series of reforms around, for example, the Section 8 program that can enable us to use vouchers to get more people into more innovative forms of housing that we can build faster and less expensively. And it requires the streamlining of the low-income housing tax credit program so we can build affordable housing at a lower cost without requiring 7 or 8 different levels of financing. But, you know, it's interesting that Evan Lowe made mention of incarceration because, you know, his support for private prisons in past votes has been remarkable. And they have really rewarded him enormously with lots of contributions to his state assembly campaigns. In fact, he's using some of that money now illegally, as Defend the Vote recently charged an FEC complaint. Private prisons are perfectly fine, apparently, for Evan Lowe, but incarceration everywhere else is
home builders.
Mr. Lowe, you certainly have time to respond there, 30 seconds.
Yeah, just for that, he keeps referencing Defend the Vote, this organization, which, by the way, endorsed Mr. Liccardo, so they have a vested interest in actually setting that attack. But look, this is also about who you trust in public safety. You heard again this plan, rhetoric versus results. So what happened under his plan? He cannot be trusted to implement a plan. Under his plan, in which he had under the city of San Jose, he missed the targets. The state of California requires cities to continue the plan, and as a result, they missed the mark. 13,128 units. Homelessness increased 40%. In fact, we had to change state law. Guy, you reported on that. We had to change state law specifically because of the failure.
Are intentionally avoiding it, or they just have no freaking clue? I get it. He missed targets. He missed targets. He missed targets. Well, I think that's it right now. Hang on, folks. Got to do something here. Oh, I thought you called me on FaceTime, that's why. I might have, because that might be my favorite. I might just always call him on FaceTime, so it might be my favorite. Anyways, do you want one or seafood? Yeah. Okay. What do you want? Well, we're not going to be home for like, we're going to stay like very good, 49 minutes. Okay, so that's fine. So what do you want? I just want to make sure you finished. No, I have not. I want what I normally get. Alright. Chili cheese fries, chili cheese, ham cheeseburger. Yeah, I think they still have that special one. Yeah, okay. Yeah, alright. Yeah, okay. Alright, love you. That's it. Alright. And he's back. Apologies.
Of cities, including San Jose, not doing their job.
Your time is up. Let's move on to Guy right now. Technology continues to dictate really how we live our lives, especially in District 16. This district is so important when it comes to regulating technology. Guy Maserati.
Yeah, Sam Liccardo, let's talk about TikTok. President Biden earlier this year signed a bill banning the app unless its Chinese parent company would agree to sell. Did Congress make the right decision in voting to force the sale of TikTok?
Just for anybody that doesn't know, TikTok's U.S. headquarters is actually in San Jose. So this is an interesting question. And oh man, look at Sam's face. He's like deadlocked in. I don't think they moved here under Liccardo's mayorship. But just for anybody that doesn't know, TikTok,
I think they made the right decision, but frankly, I don't think that's a long-term strategy for solving this challenge.
So this
what we need is much more sensible regulation
at
the federal level, not individual states popping up with 50 different sets of rules that companies have to somehow navigate with a simple federal statute. We need a data privacy bill, and we haven't had one in 30 years. So we critically need to get moving on that priority, and there is some hope with a bipartisan bill that's now being considered in Washington. I think we critically need to ensure under Section 230, which hasn't been amended in 35 years, about how platforms are regulated, that we create some baseline level of liability for companies if they fail to meet industry standards. For example, of protecting youth. We should have, for example, age verification requirements. We should have requirements that no companies can engage in text notifications and other kinds of tools that lure too many young people in on these platforms. There's a lot we can do
and protections for the business.
Allow private industry standard, that best standard, to be the floor for liability.
Thank you, Evan Lowe. The same question on TikTok to you. Do you agree with Congress's decision to try to force a sale?
I trust our government, but I think that's the wrong direction. We need to be able to partner with our tech companies and also where users are, everyday Californians are utilizing it to get information. These clips even tonight will be on TikTok. That's where so much of our information goes. But it's important, though, that we hold our tech companies accountable. Look, in the California State Legislature, I founded the California Technology Innovation Caucus because I wanted to lead in making sure that we're supporting our innovation capital, which is Silicon Valley. We need to help promote that in Congress. And at the same time, Mr. Carter talked about the Privacy Act. I was there. Again, record matters. I was there when California led on historic, first of its kind in the nation, a privacy law that allows individuals to get information on their data or opt out. That is what I'm going to do also in Congress. And so when it comes to focus on the issue of technology, I'm also very concerned about the future of work, the displacement of workers. What does AI do to displacement of workers? And that's why I'm also not just supported by the technology companies and supported in the advocacy, but also of workers, because they trust me to be able to build a bridge and helping to identify the future of work.
30 seconds to you for a follow-up.
Well, Evan mentioned the California Innovation Caucus, which I think most folks believe was just a fundraising scheme for Evan Lowe, and that's why it's the subject of an ongoing FPPC investigation today.
I'm telling you,
because of Evan Lowe's attempts to use this caucus to raise money.
It's tough to see the differences as far as like our full comprehensive.
That's just complete nonsense. The fact of the matter is, when I came to the legislature, I realized that there was a generational divide, that so many legislators did not understand technology and did not have that experience. And so I formed a group of legislators, bipartisan, bicameral, first in the nation, to be able to partner on these things. That's why I've been named Legislator of the Year by TechNet, by the Internet Association, by CompTIA, from all these organizations. But I want to be very clear, I will never stop fighting for workers and the displacement of workers and what that does. And there's significant fear. And I have the experience at the state level, and I'll do the same thing in Congress.
Assemblymember Lowe, I'll stay with you. Current federal law gives social media companies protection. Some say too many protections over the content that users post on their apps, and also in the way in which those companies can moderate that content. It's called Section 230. Former Mayor Liccardo mentioned it a moment ago. Would you advocate for changes to that law in Congress?
Absolutely. Let's realize that the genie, unfortunately, is already out of the bottle. We see that here at home in the state of California, and we've seen close to 40 bills. Again, Guy, you've covered that, on helping to make sure that there's accountability, specifically on making sure that when we identify the issue of children, young adults, on the type of usage, and making sure that this is also very addictive, that mental health stability. We also need to make sure that there are protections in the classroom. We've seen laws signed about that, and I've been there. So I have been there in the state of California, making sure that we're holding tech companies accountable, and I'll do the same thing in Congress. But I think it's really important as well, too, is recognizing that this is Silicon Valley. We need to partner and work with them and hold them accountable. So it does require the type of nuance, the partnership, and making sure that we're partnering, understanding the technology, because oftentimes the technology, by the time the regulatory framework comes in to try to regulate, the technology has already advanced. But I've been there, and that's what I will continue to do in Congress.
Sam Liccardo, let's get to one of the fundamental questions here, which is, are social media algorithms protected speech in your mind?
No, I don't believe they're protected speech under the First Amendment. What I do think is that what Congress needs to do is to set a sensible liability standard for companies, to hold companies accountable. And it can do that by creating an independent commission. It should be academics, industry experts who identify what are the best practices in the industry for being able to engage in content moderation, to be able to protect children online. We know there are good tools out there, and we know that some companies are abiding by them and some are not. Let's set the best practices as the floor for liability. And when companies know that that is the floor, they will have to raise their standards, their practices, and their platforms. And if they fail to, they'll be subject to lawsuit, just as you would without Section 230, and they can have their way with the lawyers. What we need to do is ensure that there's civil liability established by an independent commission, and Congress has the authority to do that.
Quick follow-up regarding technology in this district. So many big companies are based here. Just quickly to Mr. Liccardo, do you regularly meet with any of the CEOs or leaders of the various tech companies here?
Yes, I have. I've met with hundreds of CEOs throughout the Valley during the time I was mayor, and certainly since.
Assemblyman Lowe?
Certainly. That is the district that we represent. They also reside in our communities. And what is important is that we are in real depth conversation about the importance, about the impact to the public discourse. Let us not be forgotten. It be forgotten who we fight for. Consumer protection and privacy is of utmost importance, and that'll be a priority that I'll bring to Congress.
It leads me to my next question for Mr. Liccardo. We see so many candidates at this level and various levels, but especially here, congressional candidates that say they're going to go to Washington, D.C. And make an impact. Many of these people do not succeed. They're kind of forgotten about and fade into the 435 reps. What makes you think think that you could make an impact in Congress? What sets you apart?
I'm not running for Congress to be something. I'm running for Congress to do something. I put together an 8-page book, which you can read on my website, samacaro.com, which has very specific ideas of what we can do even in a divided Congress, because we're going to probably have a divided Congress after November 2. It's likely that Republicans are going to end up taking the Senate and Democrats will have the House. And we're going to have to actually talk to one another. So the idea is to start by identifying those solutions that we can actually get some Republican and Democratic votes for to get over the goal line. And then we need to find a forum where we can actually have those conversations to get something done. I said publicly I want to join what's called the Problem-Solving Caucus. That's an equal number of Democrats and Republicans, and you go into those conversations with the idea of actually trying to solve problems rather than simply parroting the party line. I think Americans in this country are tired of the party line, regardless of which party it is. What Americans want is they want to see Congress actually do something. And this has been the least productive Congress in more than half a century, according to Axios magazine.
Assemblyman, question to you. What makes you think that you can get things done in this divided Congress?
Well, I just want to say that here we go here about a plan again from Mr. Liccardo, and his plan that he implemented in the city of San Jose led to the decimation of the police department, rising crime rates, having to call a state of emergency, 40% increase in homelessness. Look, I keep talking about this because it's important that we're holding each other accountable on our record, not just rhetoric. That is meaningful and important about what we have done and what we will do. Now, in Congress, and answering your question, I was named the most prolific lawmaker by the Sacramento Bee because of the bills that I got passed, and that also required bipartisan support. And in fact, I'm authoring Proposition 3 this cycle in this November, which enshrines constitutional protections for same-sex couples and interracial couples to marry. Not a single Republican voted no on that measure because I worked across the aisle and worked with commonality. At the same time, by the way, I'm the only candidate who co-authored legislation trying reproductive freedom in the state of California. Other states are following. So I am proud of my track record, and track records matter. And I'm excited to be endorsed as the only Democratic candidate by the Democratic Party and the Progressive Caucus in advocating in
time's up. We have one last question because our time is almost here to an end. We're talking about climate change, and this is going to Assemblyman Lowe. It's made it harder to get home insurance because the wildfires are more frequently, especially in this district. In fact, a zip code in this district, in Los Gatos, had the highest rate of insurance non-renewal in the state of California. What can you do in Congress to stabilize our home insurance market here in the Bay Area in California?
Well, the problem is that insurance companies have left because of the climate change, not just climate change, climate crisis in real time. And it's important that we get coverage, not just comprehensive coverage, but coverage that is affordable in real time. That's why I want to partner with Congressman Adam Schiff on his Insure for All plan, making sure that we have federal support and making sure that everyday Californians are supported. And I'm proud that you talked about the issue of environment, because in the legislature, I've led on efforts making sure that California, we have zero-emission vehicles by 2035. We get by 2045, fossil-free clean electric grid by 2045. I also voted to put on the measure of Proposition 4 to get billions of dollars to climate resiliency, bay restoration that we'll be voting on. And in fact, I just left a special session in the California State Legislature and holding oil companies accountable for price gouging. So I'm deeply committed in making sure that we are protected and acknowledging this existential crisis.
Mr. Liccardo, the question goes to you. With so many people losing their homeowners insurance because of fire danger here in the Bay Area, what can you do in Congress to help stabilize our market specifically?
In my online book, you'll see some ideas about how we can use what's called PACE financing and federally backed financing through Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to help homeowners be able to help weatherproof and climate-proof their homes. For example, in wildfire areas, be able to replace wood shingle roofs, install ceiling sprinklers, et cetera. But I got to comment about Evan Lowe and his position on the climate. The Sierra Club has endorsed me in this race. California League, the California League, the Conservation of Voters has endorsed me. Every single environmental organization that has endorsed in this race has endorsed me. Why? Because Evan Lowe received an F from the Sierra Club because he was so consistently supporting oil drilling within 3,200 feet of residential neighborhoods, within 3,200 feet of child care centers. Twice he refused to vote on bills that protected those communities against oil drilling. And as a result, he's received more than $170,000 from big oil in his state assembly races. And
Mr. Liccardo, you're out of time. You can respond to that, but in your closing remarks, if you choose so, because we're almost at 8 o'clock. We're nearing the end of this debate, so we want to get to that. Assemblyman Lowe, you have 1 minute for your closing remarks.
Thank you, Raj. Well, I just want to address that. That's nonsense. You've taken $1,000 from oil billionaires and also PG&E, and maybe you weren't just listening on what the track record has been that I just left the California State Legislature in our special session in tackling the issue of climate change. Look, at the end of the day in this closing, I'm proud to be the only candidate endorsed by the California Democratic Party. There's a reason why the party and labor unions is supporting my candidacy. They've seen our respective plans. Who do we trust and who do we fight for? That's why I'm endorsed by the California Democratic Party, labor unions, teachers, firefighters, because of that track record. Named the most prolific lawmaker in the state capitol because of the results. Records matter more than just rhetoric. And I want to clear the message as well, too. Thank you to the candidates who ran into the primary election.
This debate didn't help me at all. I hope it
Thank you for your years,
some of you
distinguished service. You provide an opportunity for someone like myself to have the American dream. You've shown what the best of America has to offer. I'm deeply grateful to the residents of Congressional 16. It would be an honor and a privilege to work for you.
Assemblyman, thank you. Mr. Liccardo, you have 1 minute for your closing remarks.
I want to echo the thanks to Anna Eshoo for her tremendous service. You know, I grew up in this district, and it was my honor to serve as the mayor of its largest city. And this morning, San Jose Mercury News, you can understand the distinctions between the candidates. Mercury News clearly endorsed me, but that's nothing new because every news daily that has served this district, the 4 major news dailies, the Chronicle, the Mercury, the Palo Alto Daily Journal, Palo Alto Daily News, as well as San Mateo Daily Journal, have all endorsed me. And they've endorsed me because I am someone who can lead and get results. In San Jose, in my final year in office in 2022, we left the city with the lowest homicide rate of any major city in the country. We left the city with a reduction of 11% in street homelessness when it was going up everywhere in the county and, yes, in the state. And I left my successor a $30 million surplus. Now, Evan Lowe, in contrast, failed to vote nearly 1,000 times in the assembly. They call that taking a walk whenever there's a tough vote and you don't want to vote. Well, our residents want someone who's going to take a stand, not take a walk. I'm going to take a stand for our residents in this district. I look forward to serving you. I'd be honored by your vote.
Mr. Liccardo, thank you. Assemblyman Lowe, thank you very much to our candidates. Good luck on election night to both of you.
Thank you, Josh.
We want to thank both of the candidates, everyone here in our studios. In fact, our studio audience, you can now applause. You've been very polite.
I hope you feel better.
A reminder, you can register to vote. This is very important. You can register to vote right now online until October 21st. For specific details on how to do that, just scan that QR code right there on your screen. It'll take you to our website, NBCBayArea.com, where you'll find our full voter guide, including how to register, analysis of the key issues.
This is honestly just so unexciting.
Just so
for me
unexciting
personally.
for me personally.
There's nothing that's like Biden said, fundamentally going to change.
Fundamentally going to change.
There's nobody that's going to lead the way we don't have.
Nobody that's going to lead the way we don't have.
Aside from, everybody
saying that,
California is communism USA.
Communism USA.
We don't have an AOC over here. I mean, honestly, I would have loved to see Alex Lee run for Congress instead. That would have made me feel a lot better, actually. Because these two just don't do anything. You get one, okay, I like this a little bit more than else, and it just levels out. Whatever it is, you guys just vote. I do know that labor groups are supporting Lowe. I think they're both imperfect, and I'm gonna struggle to figure out who I'm gonna vote for. I guess I'm leaning Lowe because the labor groups are favoring Lowe. The things I care about most, making things more economically feasible over here, housing, transportation, healthcare. They're each pretty blah. I don't want to end such a downer note.
I don't want to end on such a downer note, man.
This was not. This was where I was hoping for. I was hoping to be enjoying.
I was hoping to be enjoying.
I was hoping to be optimistic about at least who I voted for.
I should have like a screen that's only me. So I should have like a screen that's only me. So I don't have this.
So I don't have this thing. Boom! There we go. Now,
there we go.
Now, I will say one thing. Most people don't really think about is freedom.
Most people don't really think
about. Is what I'm reading right now. Freedom. Not that I didn't already think about freedom, but
not that I didn't already think about freedom, but
it's a great book. Thus far, maybe third of the way through. Just to get
third of the way through.
People to think about freedom in general.
Think about freedom in
general. So many things that I think about.
So many things regarding that.
Whether it is things like history of Silicon Valley, We the People. Ola talks about
We the People.
Freedom here. The Big Sort. Talks about how people started dividing themselves up when it came to housing.
came to
So you go where your politics lies,
housing,
and a lot of that
so
has to
you
do
go
with
where your
what kind of
politics
house you live
lies, and a
in.
lot of that has to do with
So you
what
can
kind
kind
of
of make a
house you live
decent
in.
assumption as to who
So you
people
can
are
kind of make a
based
decent
on
assumption as to who
what their
people are
neighborhood's
based
like.
on
Sorry about it.
what their neighborhood's like.
Um,
Sorry about it.
Place Not Race is a
Place
great book
Not
that it
Race
has a
is
lot of identifiers
a
about how
great
to
book
better
that it
improve
has a lot of
neighborhoods
identifiers about how to better
cities and
improve
whatnot
neighborhoods and
that
cities and whatnot
use location
that
for all
use
those
location
for all the
for all
anti-affirmative
those
action folk. It's
for
just
all the
affirmative action for
anti-affirmative action folk.
place.
It's just affirmative action for
What else is
place.
here?
What else
A lot
is
of
here?
history on this shelf.
A lot of history
A lot of history
on
on
this
that
shelf.
shelf.
A lot of history
These are
on
where
that
I
shelf.
get my
These are
viewpoints
where I
from my
get
position. Get it,
my
spurs
viewpoints
ideas,
from my
and
position. Get it,
where
spurs ideas, and
my leanings are
where
coming from. It's from
my leanings
not just
are coming
it's
from.
not
It's from
from people that
not just
you see
not
on the internet.
from people
It's
that
not from people you see on TV.
you see on the internet.
I've
It's not from people you see on
I
TV.
just read, think about
I've
things, but one of the things that I don't
just
think
read,
Americans think enough
think
about is
about things,
freedom.
but one of the things that
What
don't think
creates
Americans
freedom?
think enough about
You
is
know,
freedom. What
is
creates freedom?
is it
You know,
better buses that make better
is
cities?
is it better buses that make
Is it
better cities?
how to have quality bike infrastructure
Is
and
it
how that
how to have
leads
quality
into
bike infrastructure and
people
how
having
that
the ability
leads
to
into
live life without a car?
people having the ability
Are
to
you more free
live
because
life
you
without a
have to own a
car?
car?
Are you more
I
free
don't know.
because you have to
I
own a
don't
car?
think so.
I don't know. Kind of
Well,
don't
think
think
about
so.
the freedom a little bit more. I also
Well, think
think
about
quite a bit on
freedom a little
housing
bit
stuff. I've
more.
read
I
on,
also I think quite a bit
let's
on
see,
housing stuff. I've read on
how to
let's see
restore cities for mental health,
how
and
to
I've also read
restore
about
cities for mental
just
health, and I've
the
also read about
psychology of housing in the
just
cities and in the
the
different places and
psychology
how it
of
affects
housing
us.
in the cities
Um,
and in the different
that
places and
kind
how
of
it affects us.
ripples out to
Um,
how to make cities
that
more
kind of
affordable and into
ripples out
the
to how to
restrictions
make
that
cities more affordable and into
the laws
the
in place that restrict that,
restrictions that
history
the laws in
behind
place that
into
restrict that,
those
history
laws.
behind into those laws.
We can do better. We should always be striving to do better, and we can do better.
We
And
can
this
do
is the
better.
channel
We should
that
be striving to do
is always
better,
going to be
and we can do
promoting
better. And
being
this is the
better, not
channel
just
that
as an individual,
is
but
always
as
going
a
to be
society.
promoting
And
not just as
want
an
everybody to
individual,
remember,
but as a
it is
society.
sad and
And
ironic
want everybody to
that
remember,
October
it
is
is
Pedestrian
sad and
Safety
ironic
Awareness
that
Month.
October is
During the month
pedestrian
that it
safety
has the
awareness
highest
month.
pedestrian
During the
deaths
month that it has the
on average
highest
throughout the year.
pedestrian deaths on average
Just
throughout the year.
be safe out there, everyone, because
Just
as
be safe out there, everyone, because
irony can both be funny, can also be sad,
irony
and
irony can both
just
be
drive
funny,
safe,
can also be sad, and
so that way you can protect people that
just
aren't in a steel
drive
cage
safe.
too, please. And
So that way you can protect people that
with
aren't
that,
in a steel cage too, please.
I'll jump
And
back on stream as soon as I can.
with
Hopefully,
that,
chop this video up and
I'll
make some
jump back on
videos
stream as soon
on the
as I
side.
can. Hopefully, chop this video up and
Maybe we'll see
make
about
some
getting
videos on the side.
a more active chat somehow. I don't
Maybe
know
we'll
how,
see
but
about getting
we're gonna work on it.
a more
All right,
active chat
everyone.
somehow.